Tonight we party, my friends.
Sip on mezcal, I like tequila, damn this shit tasty. Kid you not, I made about $1 million off a pink beanie. I feel like my life is a movie, damn this too easy. Can't catch me, I'm jumping the borders, hit the embassy, it's bag or die.
7 gold chains on me, call me Slick Rick. Just made an album, 7 days, that's quick. Boobies going up and down, she's fit. Hold up, wait, rewind that shit. Got uncut gems, Adam Sandler clip. She a vegan, she got a thigh gap. Yeah, my BO smell good, it smell like lilac. My team eating, yeah, we did a lag. I'm a cash rat, always do a buyback. Down payment on the whole metropolis. I'm a healthy serial monogamous. She a turkey on my dick, she gobble it. Big dick appointment, got a colleges. Sold her every show on all the continents. I don't know where I got my confidence. I'm a half-full type of guy, I'm an optimist. Sipping on a Henny, toxicologist. So I bought a house in LA, or them lived there, I just rented out. You can bet your ass I own all the cars in my roundabout. You ain't making too much sense, I don't know what you on about. Bitches fucking beggar, that is money to me paramount. You can kiss my ass if you wanna kiss me, miss me. Double C's on the prints, got me feeling itchy. I stay busy, I'm up in the nosebleeds. Ring around the rosy, pocket filled with Benji.
Sip on mezcal, I like tequila, damn this shit tasty. Hear you not, I made about $1 million off a pink beanie. I feel like my life is a movie, damn it's too easy. Can't catch me, I'm jumping the borders, hit the embassy, it's bag or die.
I don't know where you've been sold, but I'd be insane not to play my role. Yeah, I know I can break or fold, the stakes are low. If I can say one thing, just know that I got a hand that I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. Those who greater than one, move five is bad. Just know that I got a hand that I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. Those who greater than one, move five is bad. Oh, you think you suck, huh? I think that's not likely. You can keep on looking, but can't find nobody like me. Eldorado pushing, why I'm president in a white tee. You know I love you, I need someone who can guide me. I can't do no little bag, I need 3 mil. Tracks coming in both directions and like a be real. I've been eating good, to be lucky to get 3 mil. First place, run it up, care about what you feel. I have you, give you everything, anything. I have you, you're my everything and everything. Just know that I got a hand that I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. Those who greater than one, move five is bad. Just know that I got a hand that I can lend you. And it don't matter when, no, I'll protect you. Call on me, I'm here whenever. Those who greater than one, move five is bad.
One, two, three, four. Oh yeah. Goddamn, would you look at me? Yo, I'm a lazy motherfucker, that's what everyone sees. Ain't it funny how you wanna be the best, but you can't even get up and get dressed? Wasted, face it, you're never gonna make it. Rockstar, you won't get far. I know you're confused. People tell you you can be anything you wanna be. Wanna go to outer space, superhero in the streets. Wow, damn, what a lie. What a time to be alive. How have I survived? That's the battlefield, 1974. tell you you can be anything you wanna be, a king or a queen, as long as you got a dream. Oh no, it's a lie, they just wanna take your life, try to tell you it's a battlefield. People tell you you can be anything you wanna be, wanna go to outer space, superhero in the streets. My damn, what a lie, what a time to be alive, how have I survived? Life's a battlefield, 1974.
She brought two friends, baby girl, I got time today. Now she in love, wanna rain, but I cut loose ends. Sorry, but I don't wanna stay. Told them I'll run shit around here, head for the crown here. Promise I'm dying, no legend. No wonder why I got them all mad. Hater on the floor, get dragged, they folded my presents. They fold up while I'm coming with the heater. She loved me, but I don't really need her. Walking in the valley in the shadow of the reaper. Shooting for the sun, always been a heat seeker. Thought in my heart, go boom, boom, boom. Sharpshooter, gonna put a few through you. I was put here just to fuck shit up. You bitch, your crib, both getting ran through. I was down bad, was an outcast, still outlasting them all. I'm a prophet, yeah. Whole crowd laugh now, counteracts in a Cadillac. Your wifey be topping, yeah. Nelly up crazy, the cone gang, feeling like cocaine. She told me she wanted to do it. Whole team eat like a buffet, up late, getting done paid from the work. Got 38 bands in my pocket, my 38 special heat seeking it, send a shot straight to your dome. Heard a bitch nigga been talking about me, I pull up and fuck his bitch in his home. I seen so much shit in the streets, baby, in a good conscience, I had it gone. Tell me what a fly nigga know about me, what I've seen when I dream, you can tell me I'm wrong. They fold up while I'm coming with the heater. She loved me, but I don't really need her. Walking in the valley in the shadow of the reaper. Shooting for the sun, always been a heat seeker. Thought in my heart, go boom, boom, boom. Sharpshooter, gonna put a few through you. I was put here just to fuck shit up. You bitch, your crib, both getting ran through. 38 bands in my pocket, my 38 special heat seeking it, send a shot straight to your dome. Heard a bitch nigga been talking about me, I pull up and fuck his bitch in his home.
You finally showed your true colors. You had me fooled just like an undercover. Oftentimes I wonder why I ever trusted you. Oh well, that's a bummer. Yeah, things were going fine till you switched up. I no longer feel it then when I feel your touch. I'm a real simple person, I don't need much, but the truth is a necessity. You lying little fuck. I said, oh my, oh my, oh my God, there's a big fucking crack in the facade. I read the writing on the wall, this won't last long. Yeah, the feelings that I had are dead and gone. I said, oh my, oh my, oh my God, there's a big fucking crack in the facade. I read the writing on the wall, won't last long. Yeah, the feelings that I had, dead and gone. Yeah, the feelings that I had, dead and gone.
This one about to be crazy. Smooth. Yeah.
Vous écoutez bien? Alors, commence.
Whoa, yeah, shooters round me, I'm winning like I'm Curry and Clay. Whoa, round town, got a couple small things, celebrate these days. Been to places I ain't never seen in person, all they really gotta do is press play. You don't ever see me speak up, means I ain't got nothing nice to say. Yeah, whoa, leave me alone. I just had labels come blow up my phone. I'm in the zone, I'm in a rare type of zone. 15 for the wristwatch alone, not really a flex. I had to tell him to check, I been had a Cartier set. Before I had ever decided to kill it, the music, I already had me a check. I just been lit, promise no sweat on my rep. My brother's been on the same shit, these bitches my kids. They already know that I'm slept on, I ain't no limits with this. Shit is unbearable, I gotta say what I'm seeing is terrible. Lately in LA, this shit incomparable. I'm stuck to the game, now it's marital. Legend of parable, yeah. I had the confidence out from the jump. I'm at my greatest when I'm in a slump. People who don't wanna stand by themselves deserve nothing free gifted from someone else. Right now I'm thinking and plotting the voice. A Lambo for daily just makes too much noise. Haven't decided with that or the Rari. For me in the future, a regular choice. I had to go on my path. Promised myself as a kid, yeah. When I get older, I promise that no one will sleep on my shit. Rapping in closets with blankets and pillows set up for the rig, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm buried the way that I'm making these hits.
This ball is crushed.
Yeah, shooters around me, I'm winning like I'm Curry and Clay. Whoa, riding around town, got a couple small things, celebrate these days. Been to places I ain't never seen in person, all they really gotta do is press play. You don't ever see me speak up, means I ain't got nothing nice to say, yeah. Ice like Trey, hits like Dre, you and me, that's night and day. Take no L's, man, there ain't no way. Ooh. Yeah. The way that I'm stuck to this game, you would think that it's marital. A legend, a parable. You tell me.
Four corners with the hits.
Bruce Wayne. Who? Bruce Wayne. Who? Bruce Wayne. Oh, Batman? Don't got superpowers, but I'm rich though.
Yeah, I'm super rich.
Hella flamboyant with flamingos.
Go ahead and Google it.
Rapping when they all want me to sing
But still they
on.
cool
They all
with it.
want an album, so I gave them 20 singles.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hit, that's why I
Swing. Don't got super strength, still I'm carrying the game.
let's go. Bad one in my arm, bad phone in my car.
Okay, she playing my song, so the heat keeping her warm.
Wore 3-piece for the suit, got a dime piece in my arm.
Got a friend group full of goats, so the studio's in a barn.
So you coming for the throne?
Yeah.
Do it all without a team? Think you'll do it on your own?
Yes.
Put yourself up on the scene?
Yes. Now I got money to hear me different, deliver the message, a carrier pigeon.
I got the stereo hitting, it's already gold like Jeremy Piven.
Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, Entourage.
Oh, what about Bruce Wayne?
Who?
Bruce Wayne.
Who?
Bruce Wayne.
Oh, Batman?
Don't got superpowers, but I'm rich though.
Yeah, I'm super rich.
Hella flamboyant with flamingos.
Go ahead and Google it.
Rapping when they all want me to sing
But still
on.
they cool
They all
with it.
want an album, so I gave them 20 singles.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hit, that's why I
Swing.
don't got x-ray vision, still I'm seeing through your bullshit. Go 100 at bats just to get like this. Only one swing for a hit like this.
Know what I heard?
Yeah.
Made me sick.
What?
Somebody said that Nick might miss.
Nah, that's crazy, that makes me pissed. Ain't nobody else doing this like this.
Exactly.
Did you get even?
Nah, I got rich.
Oh damn, you flipped that switch. 100,000 for the month, new account for the funds. Whoa, yeah.
Feel like Brady got a bunch, did it all off of a hunch. Whoa, yeah.
Wanted me to move, but I wouldn't budge.
Said I wouldn't be, now I got a buzz.
Oh, you got the goods?
Yeah, I got the stuff.
That's what everybody always hit us up.
I just feel like I'm Bruce Wayne or something.
Who?
Bruce Wayne.
Who?
Bruce Wayne.
Oh, Batman?
Don't got superpowers, but I'm rich though.
Yeah, I'm super rich.
Hella flamboyant with flamingos.
Go ahead and Google it.
Rapping when they all want me to sing
But still
on.
they cool
They all
with it.
want an album, so I gave them 20 singles.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a hit, that's why I
Swing.
Yo. Yo, 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 yo.
1, 2, 3, Rain, talk to me. We're gonna hit a beat and talk about my Eve. Everybody,
Oh,
don't know what I say.
God.
I'm gonna do a beat.
Make it stop, Rain.
It's
time to stop. Why did you?
Rock, paper, scissors, right? We don't want Eve to be as simple as shut the fuck up, Seto!
Floods of like memes, and these small gangers are like, we're the elite of the elite. Do not fuck with us. We will kill you. We are the best players ever. It's like, dude, I did your shit. I did it better than you did.
You know what this conversation is like? When I say not enough supers die in Dell, and people tell me, oh look, there's a super died in Dell. So it's like, when
What
I'm
are
talking
you
about
even
the balance
talking
issue,
about? We were talking about fucking balance, not supers
Yeah.
dying in Delph.
Look,
Why
look,
does
look, look,
everything with you have to be about supers fucking dying in
Shut
Delph?
up! Shut up!
Christ!
It's an analogy, moron. It's an analogy. Okay?
You guys stop arguing. You act like a fucking married couple. Jesus Christ.
No, don't stop arguing.
Well, it is trash talk too.
I was like,
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, capsuleers and capsulettes, welcome to Trash Talk Tuesday. That's right. This show is your choice of shows amongst the plethora of EVE Online content you could watch, and it's yours for the low, low price of your time. My name is Redline13. I will be your host for this evening, and I am joined by a cantankerous crew of friends and other folks I won't specify, starting with Dominarch. Hello, Dominarch. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing tonight?
I am fan-fucking-tastic.
I like that.
Having a great time. Firefox, what about you? You having a good week so far?
Come.
Don't just say come when I ask you if you're having a good week. Come on, how's your week been? Tuesday. All right. We're also joined by the one and the only Nada Red. Hello, Nada. How are you?
Hello. Happy to be here after our big win at the weekend at the Olita Frigate Free-For-All.
Of course, of course. And we're joined by none other than Rain Chocolate. Hello, Rain.
Meowdy. How is everyone?
And last, and certainly not least, we've got Vertiso, our local bad poster.
I love Winter Coalition.
Do you?
Yes.
All right, so
He is a fan of the panda.
So if there's a battle report, we're going to put you on the other side, right?
I wouldn't go that far, but
What
I
do you
love
mean?
Winter Coalition.
All right, fair enough. So it's just you. It's just you that loves Winter Coalition.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right.
That's why I said I love Winter Coalition.
Well, speaking of Winter Coalition, it's been a whole week since I said that nothing would happen in the North because no one would want to fight. And lo and behold, I've been proven wrong again, Dominarch.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, we're killing a fort right now.
Okay, you're killing a fort, but
That's
were you
still fighting. I don't care what you say.
It's not fighting. It's just killing a fort.
It's fighting back.
Were you at the fight this weekend or not?
I did not make it to that.
You did not make it to that.
I wouldn't be sad about that one.
Did you make it, Firefox?
I shot one thing. Downtime happened. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to sleep instead.
And so you just never came back. So
basically,
did most of the fight happen after downtime then?
Majority, yeah. So the fight started like less than an hour before downtime, and I think it continued like 4 or 5 hours afterwards.
When did the node crash or the server crash?
12:30ish, I think.
And downtime was at
11.
11? Okay.
I think it was around 12:30ish. I was asleep though, so I don't know precisely. But
Yeah, there was a tweet from EVE Online status. Yeah, I just had to help Seema there. He clicked on a little shield button, and that button that you clicked is the one that turns it on. Let's see. So does this have the time? About 9:40 a.m. where I am. And so it's, I don't know what time that would be in EVE time. Sorry, I'm not going to be very helpful with that.
It's about 12:30.
Yeah. So like what, an hour and a half after downtime? But basically it resulted in the whole server crashing, and then it was rolled back, which doesn't really happen very often, the rollback. I think
Didn't that happen in the fountain part of the world, the whatever the last war's called?
I'm super confused. What do you mean rolled back?
So what they did was the server crashed, and what CCB did was that they rolled it back to a time prior to the server crashing. So for instance, if there were people that had gotten out of the system and out of the fight, but they hadn't done so with enough time between them leaving and the crash, then they were put back to where they were and still in danger, and now having to leave again if they could.
What if they had logged off in that time?
Is this confirmed?
I didn't think CCP rolled it back. I thought CCP brought the server back up, and the server said, "Hey, this was the last point in time we remember, so we're just gonna go."
Yeah, like I'm not tracking an actual rollback. I'm talking Mifune on INN said.
Roll it back.
Okay, so let's just stop for a sec. So I'm tracking Mifune on INN stream said it was rolled back, but he was literally just didn't actually understand the grid he was looking at.
Mifune doesn't understand his reflection. I wouldn't read too much into his opinion.
Yeah,
on
so I would
anything.
like. I'm not actually tracking an actual rollback. I'm
Okay.
tracking like Mifune saying there was one when he didn't understand what he was looking at, and then I'm tracking that Dark Shines, or not Dark Shines. Starfleet told everyone to petition as if there was or something. But I'm
Yeah,
not
so
tracking.
that's yeah, no, that was kind of the thing is you had Starfleet commander saying that there was a rollback. Lucas saying it wasn't a rollback. So what was and hi, how are you? Goodbye was rolled back. So I guess what would you call a rollback then, if that's not what it was? Because it was essentially going back to a previous time.
But it's not something that CCP did. If
Okay.
it's, I mean, if it was triggered by the server, that's not the same thing.
In extreme lag situations like M2 and other things, you have bounce backs, which is where people's location might register as different than they remembered it or had last checked it. Like many of the Titans, for example, in M2. But when it comes to extreme lag, like a rollback is not something I'm even tracking CCP's ever done.
Well, I mean, it's just a word for what happened that makes it sound better for people that had a bad experience, right? Like
Yeah.
people call it a rollback, people call it a node crash, people will call it whatever they want to call it, so that they can say it's not our fault for not realizing that yet again the server can't handle 6,000 people and we made a boo boo.
I think a lot of other games just call it elastic banding, where your client shows you somewhere and then that gets reverted once the fucking database corrects for you.
All right. So that's fair. So we know what happened, but the name is up for debate. But all that's to say that there was no like CCP button that was pressed that said roll back the server 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, if that had happened, ships would have reappeared and stuff, but they didn't. Stuff that was dead's dead. Stuff that was off grid went back on grid, and grids can be very fucky when you try and crash 6,000 people in the system.
Right. And so essentially what it was is that the client side was seeing that these people were out of harm's way because like you can kind of process that stuff client side for a little while, but then the server wasn't linked up, didn't remember that that had happened and came back to that previous point before it had. Right?
Yeah, there's probably like a more technical, like correct answer, but like unless you know how the game like works on a lot lower level, you're not going to know what actually happened. But pretty much that.
Gotcha. Makes sense to me. Well, all that's to say that I got a battle report here. There was a ton of people fighting. It was like 6,000 people all
Did it break the
together.
record?
I don't think so.
Is this the actual correct battle report?
So this is the battle report that showed
No,
up.
it's not.
Well, do you have the correct one? Because this is the one that I got the day that it happened.
So whose correct one are we talking about here? Because the Goon one omitted a system where they just fed for no reason in.
Yeah.
They also
I
added
have-
3 forts, so there was no fight as well to their side of the battle report.
I have this one here.
It's
this
missing
one has a
a
bunch
big
of systems in it.
You have to include the 24 hours after as well, right, during the feed fiesta.
Right.
It fed like another 80 bill.
I mean, this one's closer, but like I don't know. It's the first one you linked is definitely wrong. I know that one.
The actual fight only happened in 2 systems, X47 and JTaxi.
Yeah, so where did you post that, Billy?
Just
I didn't
add
post it anywhere, so I've
JTaxi to
just
this one, Redline.
Add JTaxi to X47?
Yeah, so just click the plus button and add
And
JTaxi.
change the time from 8 to 17 at least.
Yeah, it's 1000 to 1700, which should be like towards the end of the big fight.
Well, it started at like 0800.
Change this to what, 8? I'll just change it to 7. Okay. See what happens with that. Okay, so this is the battle report that you're looking for?
This
With
is
about
closer.
where all the
Closer?
main fighting happened. At least.
Okay. Cool.
Dumb question. There was a lot of structure bashing, right? Did that happen in these 2 systems, or is that a different
Nope.
system?
Different
No.
systems in different regions.
But not quote unquote battle worthy, as in it was just kind of AFK structure
It was an
bashing?
AFK shooting a fort.
Right. So what this was, there were 4 keep stars that had come out of reinforcement all at one time. They were X47, FTAC-N, ROIR, and 5Z. Is that the last one?
Who's keep stars?
5ZXX.
Fraternities keep stars were coming out of reinforcement, so these were armor timers. All 3 of the keep stars, the ones that aren't in X47, they all made it to their hull timers and X-47 repaired, because that's where this fight was happening. Over the course of the fighting, which it was what, like 4 or 5 hours of fighting, I think, just based on like stream up times that I saw. So over the course of this, there were a few Fortizars that died.
Redline.
Yes, sir.
Luke actually put a BR in Twitch chat for you.
What a blessed
I
man.
DM'd it to you as well. That's like the full BR with every system and the feeding festival at the end of it.
All right. So this includes, but is not limited to, everything that happened after the main fight, all the other stuff that they fed, or no?
Yeah, so the feeding frenzy after the main fight went on for about 24 hours.
Yeah.
Which this you can only do 24 hours at a time. So
Okay. And so we are correct in assuming that the ISK prices on these ships is incorrect, as that market data has not been updated for kill boards, right? So
I mean,
what we
it's close. It's not like super far off.
Is it?
yeah, like
Because
the Lashaks were only maybe like 50 mil off from what they actually should be.
I thought
like
I
most
saw
of the faction
somebody-
battleships, it's T1 battleships that are way off.
Accurate for accurate
Yeah,
enough.
like
No,
I don't
someone said
understand why it would not be.
the TFIs were like half the cost. I
What
gotta
are the
Is
follow-
it
TFIs in the
that dumb
BR?
fucked up? That's a dumb fuck argument. It's one of those. I built it at this cost, so it's this price, not what it's actually in JITA.
Yeah,
No,
like
on the
TFIs
battle
are
report-
usually 550, but they're like 100 mil more the day after because like a bunch just died.
Okay, so click on that TFI loss you're looking
Yeah,
at on
so
stream.
this says 493 mil.
Look,
but
click on the link
on
of
this
what
it
you're.
says 773.
Yeah,
There you go.
773 is like an accurate TFI price for Nullsec TFIs.
6 months.
Does it really matter, like the
No,
nickel and diamond
not
on the
terribly.
Zico? Because at the end of the
No.
day, it's a very large amount of money to waste on purely subcaps. Like it's pretty crazy. Like it's over $250 billion ISK in subcaps is a pretty. That's an achievement, to be fair, and no one can take that away from them because I'm pretty sure no one else has done that. So
Yeah, I mean,
they
I
win.
certainly wouldn't begin to try to take it from them. They've done more. They did more for the Keep Stars in World War B.
Yeah, but that was capitals, right?
Well, no, it was subcaps too. Subcaps and capitals. It was the
Exactly.
whole
This
kitchen.
is purely subcaps, and it's still over $1 trillion, $250 billion ISK.
I mean, we had capitals and super capitals. I don't think any died on our side that I know of.
No, I didn't see where any supers or anything like that had died. So, but where were the goon supers though? Like
Sitting in the DO6 Keepstar the entire time, I guess.
They're waiting for Tibrizzle or Jay or a John to resub, probably.
Don't forget
I
about
think
that.
they were waiting for a time zone that's a little more favorable. Might be a better way of saying it.
I mean,
Pratt had a
who-
considerable Titan and super fleet.
Who's gonna FC that for goons?
Yeah,
Dark
really,
Shines, I guess.
Vintage.
Well, I mean, they held the whole team there. Asher was there. Proga was there. Like everybody was
Okay,
there.
again. I mean, well, Asher can't really do everything, and I don't want to be horrible, but I don't know if Pro Gods. I mean, today he showed some pretty poor judgment.
What did you do today?
I just fed for no reason.
Redline, I pinged you in guest lounge. That is the following 48 hours.
Well,
the first
no-
one's the first
so
24 hours. After the second
we-
one's the second 24 hours.
We know how that time went, right? Like at a certain point, you either just don't play Eve or you log in and you lose your battleship. Like, who cares? Enjoy the turkey shoot, but don't crow about it. It's not a big deal. But
I
what
think it is.
You think it is?
I think having your main trapped is way worse than having like Capul's trapped. That's your main character. It's when you play on mostly. They would have been way better off just telling dudes to log in immediately and just accept the butcher's bill.
Well, maybe they weren't available? Like maybe the people had logged off and just like gone to sleep or something? It
Yeah, it's
being that
possible.
early in
It's
the
kind of an
morning?
alarm clock time zone on a weekend.
I'll also throw out there it's really good to have your main because of that event CCP is running where you can get your picture on the mural or whatever. You want your main on the mural, you don't want some random alt you don't care about.
I would love my random alt on that mural.
I swear
But I don't know, Johnny. I would say that it doesn't really matter one way or the other. Like if you're trapped in the system with the subcap, like it's no biggie. And that's what a lot of the folks were, is the subcaps. Just
I mean, you're trapped in a battleship that costs less than a bill. Just log on so you can get on with your life. I would say it's more embarrassing for them to sit there with 2 days and all their means trapped logged off in ships that aren't that expensive at the end of the day.
Right, exactly. Like 700 mil, no biggie, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
I
agree.
mean, if it's Titans or Supers, you don't have an option, right? You can't just feed Titans and Supers. Unless it's like an actual fight, I guess. Wink, wink. But like when it comes to like logging in and feeding, like some ships you can do it, and some ships you can't, right? I don't think anybody should have been like, I can't afford to lose this scimitar. Like you have to at some
You just
point
have to
accept
lose
it.
the
Maybe I just want
scimitar.
to play the game.
Right, you just have to lose the scimitar. But that being said, I wanted to look. I had made Firefox. You'll be pleased to know that all of my graphs and charts are now inaccurate. Since I made them all on the battle report that I had, and I've been given updated battle reports, so it's all useless. So that I'm sorry for. But I do want to know, so the goons, supers, and everything, they were in DO6. Why didn't they come in and fight? Is DO6 like super far away? Like, what's the distance here?
They can bridge next door.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's
so-
close enough that they can gate in if they want to, but obviously they don't want to gate in and frat head an equal or larger supercap fleet.
They can't. Oh, the system was Sino jammed, right?
Yeah.
It's also, I think, out
Gotcha.
of range directly of DO6 for Titans.
Well, just gate in.
Yeah, so they'd have to Sino next door anyways and take the gate.
And see, I seem to
They could jump next door by
I
Titan.
mean, I seem to recall there was a lot of rhetoric from that side during like one of the previous big wars that they should just gate in their supers, and that was what was win that time, right? Get
Yeah,
in.
I mean that was the idea. Just come in through the Stargate. You'll be fine. Unfortunately, there's no goons here to defend their point, which sucks.
Yeah, I can't defend. I wasn't there this weekend, so I'm not sure why.
Close
These
enough.
Capitals.
I mean, the defend goons on it, right? Like, why would you put your super fleet anywhere near at risk to help fire, just get more rental space and branch, trying to kill an FRT, keep star in FRT space? Like, why would you risk all your alliance money like that?
Well, because they
Because they
were
hate
going to.
renters.
Yeah, they hate renters. They've declared a fatwa against renters.
I know, but like, yeah, that's a rhetoric. But like, deep down, they only move the super fleet up here the posture and do a few initial reinforces. They're not going to put that in line for Starfleet Commander, so we can RMT some more fucking renter money.
I think it was just. I think they moved supers just because they know we have a lot of dreads and they wanted to have an advantage in that regard because we've had some pretty good results against goons over the past couple years in dread fights.
Also, don't know if you heard, but in it almost fed a rag shooting the FTAC and Keepstar.
Yikes.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
they have every subcap fleet's guardian like sit on it and rep it to tank it.
I forget, did it happen during the timer? But there was a blob avatar, I think, that jumped instead of bridge by accident sometime in the past 2 days. It was Rotz's, right?
Yeah, it was right before the X-47
Yeah.
fight. He jumped in the J-Taxi instead of bridged.
It could have been spicy if
I wish it was spicy though. It would have been funnier.
Well, Spicy McNicey.
It would have been really funny.
Well, so this. Do you guys remember the other fight, the other big fight in X-47, the one in like 2018?
I do. I was there.
I was there too. Why does X-47 destroy us like this?
It's an important system. It's like the mouth between
Tactical
Pure
jump
Blind
ranges.
and Tribute. Like if you control X-47, you control like the pipeline into Tribute and Veil. Like part of the reason we're staged there is because they have to go through our staging to do it in the frats, and so like we act as a natural barrier. Very tactical.
It's geography, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good
let's
spot
go
geographically to be.
Pull up a map of X-47 here real quick if I can, because I just want
What
to
it-
see kind of what you're.
It's
talking
either you go through X-47 or you take a
Like bridge through Declan or something.
9 jump detour of gates.
Yeah. So you got X-47 here, 2 jumps away from Tribute, close to NPC space, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. And so because it's a good place geographically, it's just likely going to be where these big fights keep happening. Because the last time, was this as bad as last time where there were like ghost ships everywhere and like they stayed there?
There was
I
a lot
didn't.
more people
So
last time.
I don't think the server was that bad yesterday, to be honest. But yeah, like before the crash, all my clients were responsive. It was like obviously it was slow because there was 6,000 people in local, but everything worked, as far as I could tell.
Yeah, like it was just You had long outstanding calls, but they just worked.
Yeah, the downtime restart was what really killed the fight more than anything. Having 5,000 people trying to log in.
Isn't that what's coming up tomorrow? Like, it's
Yeah, I
final
think
time.
Yeah, so there's
7 minutes
there's
before
two
downtime or something.
there's two keep stars that both come out like a minute apart, and it's like 7 minutes before downtime. I think it's 5ZX and X47, I believe.
FTAC-N, I think.
Was that again? Yeah, but it's timing is very coincidental and very interesting.
FTAC-N's a little later, I thought.
It's 5ZX and X47, and then FTAC-N and ROAR are like an hour and a half after downtime.
Well, I don't know that they're. Oh, so and then the X47, that's an armor timer again.
Yep.
So do you think there will be another fight?
Not for
I would
X47.
be very surprised if there wasn't a fight tomorrow of some kind.
If there's going to be a fight tomorrow, it'll almost certainly be in which one's first? 5ZX, right? Yeah. So if I had to put my money down, the first fight will either be in 5ZX if numbers are close to even, or it'll be in FTEC-N if the Imperium numbers are not super strong.
Well, I thought X47 was coming out again in the morning.
It is, but if you have a choice of fighting over a whole timer in a non-jam system or an armor timer in a jam system, what do you
Pick
like?
the whole timer.
Yeah, and it's important to understand like these reinforcers have almost no value, right? It's a time zone based war, so realistically they can reinforce X47 just about any day, right? So it's not like the reinforce has any real value. So the whole timer has some value, but the armor timer has very little value. So it's almost certainly the timer is going to end up, or the fight will happen in 5ZXX on the whole timer in 5ZXX with no jammer, or in FTEC-N if the B3 side's numbers are weak, with Frat coming in under B3's jammer.
It's a different
That was the
dynamic too.
important thing. Yeah, FTAC-N is a system they can jam. So
Yeah, FN is free. FN is free basically for their side. Like, there's no reason that one shouldn't die. They'd have to horribly botch the offense there to not get that one.
Yeah.
The time zone dynamic is very interesting because obviously on a weekend you can alarm clock from any time zone for a timer, but on weekdays obviously people have jobs and school and whatnot that obviously comes first.
There's always going to be a weekend timer or a weekday timer if there's a weekend timer, right? So nobody's ever going to do these to have 2 weekends, right? So, if you get the armor timer on a Saturday or Sunday, then the whole timer is always going to be on a Wednesday or Thursday, right? And much the same if you get a whole timer on the weekend. Well, you can't really get a whole timer on the weekend without doing an armor timer on the weekdays, right? So
Yeah, your initial reinforce has to be on like Tuesday to get a weekend timer.
I mean, we did that a bunch intentionally too.
Yeah. It's just going to be very hard for Imperium to find a hole, I guess you would say.
Well, I mean, they do have the holes as far as the keep stars and hold timer because you're less likely to see a fight on a hold timer, than you are on an armored timer. That's why my thought would be to go for X47 again, just to push that through. But and then kill the other
Then
ones with a few supers and titans or whatever.
You're not going to want to leave a few supers and titans unattended, though.
Yeah, so at current prices redline, like a Titan costs more than a keep star. Like a fit Titan costs more than a keep star to replace. Just keep that in mind when you're figuring out the price metrics and like the risk, what's good to risk, what's not.
It doesn't take a whole lot while everyone's like bogged down in infinite tie-dye. You just jump a few dreads out and to a non-tie-dyed system, kill some supers. Like, there's no way your subs can get out of the system quick enough to respond, so you don't really ever want to do that.
Yeah, and so that would even further decrease the chance of there being a fight on these hull timers. Because if the Titans are worth much more than a keep star, then you wouldn't want to lose Titans over a keep star.
The question is, who's willing to put their Titans on field and who's not?
Somebody has to put their Titans on the field first. And who do you think is going to do that?
I would assume goons, especially if it's in a system that they
why would you assume
the system.
It's much better to do it defensively. It's like much safer to do it defensively than offensively because offensively you're in space, you have to get up afterwards somehow. You're, like if the keep star bugs out and repairs, and you have the M2 debacle all over again. It's even on full timer, it's way better for the defender than the attacker.
Yeah, so it'd be like a reverse M2 where if goons went for this, they would run the risk of getting their titans and supers trapped under bubbles
Much like
for
they
a week.
already have gotten trapped on their first attempt at a Keepstar.
The ones after downtime, right? That's a full 24 hours. So being fully trapped there is pretty unlikely as time wears on and more Euros get home from work and the Americans get home from work and stuff, but it's not impossible. Could happen.
Yeah, for sure. So Billy, your money's on 5Z. What about everybody else? What do you guys think?
Well, no, I said my money's on 5Z if the numbers are close to equal, and FTech N if Imperium/B3 doesn't form exceptionally well. Because the one thing that nobody's really talking about here from that big timer is how many people fucking frat formed in Chinese time zone.
And that was a ferocious and motivated frat fighting force.
I have graphs for that. But I caution
Oh,
you.
no.
I caution you that they may be slightly incorrect due to numbers.
Well, I
but
mean,
you
whatever
still get an
graphs you
idea.
have are going to include absolutely zero of the frats, like what 800 capitals they had formed or whatever. Like,
Well, it's
You'll
just
just know
it's
what was on the VR, right?
It's just what's on the BR is all I can see, right? So, but basically looks like this. So this is the total participants on the defending side here. About 1,000 fraternity members. 44% of the total people are from fraternity here. 23 from Pandemic Horde, so on and so forth.
So, I was gonna say, local broke at some point and stopped going up for people. In Guest Lounge, Redline, that is the scan I took when my local broke and stopped moving.
Yeah,
For
that was
people joining
also.
and leaving.
I think it's pretty noteworthy too that NC formed 522. That's a very big form for NC Dog. They were highly motivated to the fight as well. I even hear there's whispers of Vince Draken appearing.
Oh, of course.
He has finished reopening Europe.
Europe is opening again.
There is a detailed character list here, is there not? I'm gonna scroll through all these characters until I get to the V's. We'll see if
Just
Vince
Control
Draken
F.
is on the list. I know about Control F.
You can sort it Z to A, by the way, at the top.
I'm doing what I'm doing at this point. I saw December there. Is that a November alt?
But it's this is when my local stopped going up and down. It just kind of got stuck here. I think one of my alts froze at like 5150-ish, but that character black screened and I couldn't get it to log back in, so I have zero idea.
There is one dynamic that changes a bit too for tomorrow Redline, and that Pandemic Horde, being the people who live in drone lands, have moved paladins and dreadnoughts to one of the frat keepstars. There should be more heavy assets from Horde available if they want to use them.
So if you're searching for the V red line, you can just, if you go look at Vince's kill board, there are 2 kills in X47, so he was definitely there.
You realize I've been scrolling this for about a minute and a half, and this entire time it could have been avoided by you just saying he was definitely there.
Oh, Vince was definitely there.
He was on a monitor, and he was there.
Speaking of the percentages of people,
I was very surprised though that NC had fucking 520 people in local.
That was a Vince Draken Paladin fleet in 2023. Gotta show up for that one.
If NC shows up for one thing, it's for fucking goons.
It's for Vince, is what it is. Oh yeah, right next to Billy. Billy was there. Vince Draken. Look at him go. All right.
NC shows up for Vince. Vince shows up for the goons.
Yeah, there you go. And then now, so you talk about how many people fraternity brought to the fight. I like this next chart because it shows how many people goons and Init brought to the fight compared to the people that actually wanted to kill the fucking thing. This is insane. Where did goons get 700 some people in CNTZ?
Being 100
times. Are you joking? Max.
No,
so you have
I'm not joking.
The way you have to frame it, Redline, is like what is being asked of the members. Like they were asked to alarm clock, like a full-on call to arms for goons. They were told, if you can alarm clock, please be there, which does not happen very often for goons. I haven't seen that happen for probably like a couple years now. So usually if your exec says, can you alarm clock, you try and be there if you can.
And obviously you have to think about the day of the week as well, right? Like it's a Sunday, so anyone from the UK, it was 11 in the morning on Sunday. So you'll have a fair chunk of EUs in there as well.
It was the kind of alarm clock where everybody who's in your lines could make it.
Okay, so it was a pet your dog later, do whatever, the thing that people say, so that everybody showed up. So obviously Goons did that. In it maybe kind of did that.
Yeah, and it did a CTA, I think, I believe. Dark Transpain to CTA for Init, which is like, alarm clock if you can be there.
But what about everyone else?
I mean,
What
Luke
about
can speak for
Fracted?
Fraps.
I think he's talking about B3.
Yeah, I'm
I think he's
talking
talking
about
about. I say we
B3.
formed really hard. I think B3 and Fire didn't really show as far as I can see.
Yeah,
compared to the Imperium, right? Given it's their space, they want to reclaim inverted commas.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Only 64 Legion of X6 deaths seems kind of low to me for that time zone on a weekend.
I mean, how many XIX showed up to defend their own space?
Cool.
True.
Fair.
64 is a bigger number than 0, so.
It was
It's infinitely
104,
bigger.
not 64, right?
Yeah, it's 104. That's not a 6.
Yes.
That's a
Did I misread
10.
it?
Uh,
Oh, what's 64, Redline? Legion of X6 death is 64.
oh, he's going off the D-scan I had before my local broke as everyone was jumping in, so.
Oh, okay. So that, Johnny, you're going off the D scan?
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the
Okay.
one in Discord.
All right, I was looking at the battle report. Oh god, I have to scroll this all the way back. I'm sorry for the flashing on the screen, team.
I mean, Horde
Legion
didn't
X64.
CTA for this. We posted like, this is an important strat up, and if you can be there, be there. But we didn't like full on Goblin site or anything.
For the person asking in chat, what time would have it been for Russia? It would have been about 2 in the afternoon on Sunday.
Sounds about right.
Pretty good time to play video games, I would say, for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it would have been great to have like everybody else from B3 come and see just see what the numbers really could be in that time zone. But I mean, if they're anything more than this,
But they're people who couldn't be bothered fighting BFL and fucking or English speaking FRT, which is a far cry from Chinese speaking FRT. So why do you expect them to show up for this when they can't show up in their own time zones?
I mean, their alliance's survival is kind of dependent upon the outcome of this war to some degree.
Oh yeah, like it's important, right? But they've shown in the past they don't care. They let their structures die in low sec near their null sec space because they didn't want to fight Snuff. They don't bother fighting BFL, Bargas, which are kind of easy to kill when you get on top of them. So
you're talking about Brave, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about all of them, to be honest. Like these people also used to bat for an FRT as well to save the Rortals. They're not used to defending their own stuff in the Imperiums here, so they're going to do all the work.
I think the biggest thing just comes down to is like, how long are goons just gonna goons in the Imperium and it just gonna stay here and like hard carry B3?
Well, I suppose as long as I need to.
So one interesting thing is if you read the Imperium pings, and of course I don't do this because we don't have any spies, but all the Imperium propaganda talks about B2. None of it talks about Fire, which I think is really interesting. I think they have very little desire to help Fire, and they're just keen to help Brave and Starfleet.
I mean, they've whelped over half of the Fire safe passage money on Sunday, so.
Yeah, and it's also hard to replace Navy battleships in Leshak's that scale.
Let's be honest, they shouldn't replace those Leshaks. Just give them the
Come
money.
We see,
it wasn't PGL's Leshak fit, was it?
It was.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so we did at something like 7 p.m. last night. We killed 101st Leshak. We're really happy about that one.
Jeez.
Which of the two VRs I pinged you in Guest Lounge, which is the next 48 hours of X47 after this fight.
That was great fun. I just love that.
I'm just looking. I see it looks like the main fight. Let me make sure I got the right battle report somewhere. Because I think, yeah, this is the right one. So I'm just looking at the composition. It looks like you guys killed, I see 100 Leshaks on this battle report. 53 Apocalypse Navies, 8 Balgorns, 18 Megathron Navies.
I think it works out to roughly
68. I should put this on the screen.
250 bill of battleships to kill 17 Paladins.
Yeah, and so 19 Paladins actually, spin poster, with one Kronos and a monitor here.
So 20 Marauders for how many battleships? Just click on the groups tab at the top, red line. Scroll up a bit.
I mean, all our Marauders have been heavily reimbursed already, so we're good to go for next time.
Versus groups.
308 battleships versus compared to 20 Marauders.
You have to look at what kind of battleships it is, though. Like Navy battleships require LP to get.
Oh, if you
Shacks
click
require some
on
components.
yeah, if you click on the battleship like group, it will give you a drop down and breakdown.
Oh wow, that's great. Look at that. That is beautiful. I've actually never seen this before. I've never seen it put together
And
like
it tells
this.
you it also gives you the breakdown of how many people from what alliance were in what ship. So in the case of Marauders, like for the Horde side, there's 180 Horde Marauders, 144 NC Marauders, so on and so on.
Yeah. Well, and so Johnny, you say so the faction ships they require LP, so that cost is obviously not factored into this, so they become much harder to replace.
Well, it is factored into it. It's just that the
Yeah,
cost that you're
it's-
seeing is not.
Yeah, like when you have a big fight like this, the question is how many battleships do you have in someone's hangar to like get to your dudes as quickly as possible? I can tell you that everyone who lost ships from Horde during this fight like already has money and ships available to them, so everyone should be good to go for tomorrow's Keepstar timers. I don't think that's the case on the Imperium side, but obviously I can't speak for them.
Well, it really depends, I guess, on whether or not CCP decided to, reimburse their ships.
They didn't.
CCP's policy on it has historically always been very, very clear. I don't think they've ever wavered from there. We will not reimburse server weather-related problems.
I think it's also if there's more than 100 people on a kill mail, they're like, yeah,
Ignore
it's a
it.
big fight. It impacts the outcome of the fight, and just don't do it.
So this chart is for my friends who wanted a line graph, a bar graph. I mean,
I thought it was a pie chart. It's supposed to be a pie chart.
I've had several pie charts on the screen. You just might not have seen them.
I wasn't paying attention.
But this is so. I do have a question about the EULA, because this right here, this ping from Starfleet Commander to his happy band of miscreants, essentially saying, "Hey, petition your ship loss, and say that your ship was at a ping when the node crashed." Is this intentionally misleading GMs against the EULA?
It's the ping. Starfleet himself could be in question of breaking the EULA to tell people to file because spam and bogus support tickets for like reimbursement is against the EULA just because you're just spamming the fuck out of support.
Right.
So this ping can be misconstrued as against the EULA. The people, if they actually did it or not, they're probably fine. Like no harm, no foul. It's like you're just dumb for doing it. But telling a fuck ton of people to like mass do it, the person who instigated it could be breaking it. There's nothing saying they can't, but there's don't flood with bogus reports issue, and that's up to CCP on how they'd want to handle that. So it's hard to say realistically.
I wonder how many people actually submitted the tickets, though.
I think it's pretty disingenuous to tell your members to do that at that scale, to be honest with you, because everyone knows how it's handled. Like, you're not going to get reimbursed and you're wasting the GM's time. And I know it sucks if you feel like you got, like, scammed by the server, but it's, it's part of those fights, unfortunately, to accept.
Yeah, just reading the chat comments about it, and it's like, how would anyone else feel if they were in that situation? Yeah, I mean, it would feel shit. Like if I was in the same situation that B2 were in, and the server crashed and all my stuff was walked back to 0 on a Keepstar, it would feel shit. However, I think everybody's played this game for long enough to know that it just happens,
So,
right? Like,
so
look
what?
M2.
So to use a personal anecdote, when downtime happened in M2, on my screen and my friend's screen, my super carrier was sitting on the friendly fort on grid with the hostile Keepstar. But when we logged in to cap up like a few days later, I was definitely below the keep. So it happens to everyone. You should accept it as part of the gameplay.
And that is what an Alliance SRP covers that.
Yeah, that's what reimbursement's for.
And
it's like, you lost the ship, whatever. The Alliance will pay for it. Like the Alliance as a whole should know this.
I'd also like to remind everybody that if you're a good FC, you should remember the server weather. And all of you in the chat that are complaining should remember the server weather. And suck it up and just take the loss. I'm looking directly at you, Eli Burning, because that's what you said to those people when it was happening to them at that time. Anyways,
I'll also throw out there, it feels like every time when these fights happen, we all learn the server does something wildly different.
right.
And it's always like hilarious to see what kind of weird shenanigans the server does to people.
I think the server performed, from my perspective, basically how we expected it to. Maybe that's a little bit rose-colored because I was on the defender side this time, but it was pretty good overall given how many dudes were in local.
Yeah, but I mean, I wasn't expecting the rubber band kind of thing. I can totally understand how it happened and why it happened. I wasn't expecting that one, but I was expecting something to go wrong with that number of people in system.
Yeah, I mean, you almost have to at that point. I do
Well,
remember.
Considering what had happened, it was honestly pretty tame from the other outcomes that could have happened with the server. So,
In the end of the day, they're just faction battleships. They're easy to replace. They're not 6-build dreads or titans or supers.
Yeah, I mean, when we had 28 in local, 2800 in local, and they jumped in, I was like, wow, this is going to be a rough night. We're going to be in for.
I don't know,
Because you know when the
That would be good.
server is going to hit 5,000 people, it's not going to be fun for anybody.
It definitely should be commended too. Like, we appreciate them coming in and warping at 0 on the Keepstar and taking that fight. Like, that is definitely a big baller move, and both sides have to kind of commit for those kind of fights to happen.
Well, especially going into the fact that there was only about, by the time that they actually warped to the Keepstar, there was only about maybe 4 to 3 minutes left on the timer, if I recall.
Yeah, and you have to remember too that the repair timers all repair in real time, even if the server's operating at like 1% tie-dye or whatever.
So,
and then with outstanding call times, it was Dragon Channel Redline.
Yeah, my Discord just so someone else is gonna. There
Wait,
he is.
Zach, you could just join the channel yourself.
Oh, I didn't know.
In fairness, I just gave him the role to join it, so.
All right, but no, you also have to remember, like, with the when you know the server's gonna hit that many people in the system, you have to take into account it's gonna take a while for like inputs to go through. So you can't jump in like right before it starts its repair timer because it's like you have to warp across system, which the gate they came from for the most part was like 22 AU away. So you warp to a ping generally, then you warp down to the Keepstar, and if the ping you warp to is unsatisfactory, you have to go to another one.
By the way, there's some guy in chat who's saying they warped onto the Keepstar at 13 minutes, but they did not. They warped to their ping at 13 minutes, and they were not in range to do damage.
Yeah, and it's but you also have to like.
And I remember that because we were sitting in there and being like, "Oh, they're cutting this really close in this level of tie-dye." But
It's very hard to gauge the time too, because obviously you want to be respectful of your members' time, but you also want to like actually be on grid early enough to win the timer and have like a competitive fight.
Yeah, in like cases like that, you realistically need to be like 30, 45 minutes early.
Yeah, like when were the initial form-ups relative to that Keepstar timer? It was like 0700, I think, is when people started pinging for like a 1024 timer, I believe.
Right, 07, 0800 in
So
that range.
So people were pinging like their form-ups like 3.5 hours before the actual like fight occurred, which is insanity.
Yeah, I think we moved most of our guys, and then our guys went to get breakfast for an hour, and then came back.
Well, to your point, Johnny, that's what so many of us learned from them too, as far as making sure. Well, granted, we were in the opposite position at that point, but it pays to be early, I suppose, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like I think Securitas and I both stayed up for like all night. Like, I was up for like 28 hours before I slept during that fight, just because I wanted to be there for it. I think same was true for Sec as well.
I mean, we learned this in a way from Goons in a way, because in the Delve War there were several times when they like every time we would ping, they would just move their like sometimes. Well, and in the South too, Johnny. Do you remember some of those iHub timers? Goons would start forming 4 hours early because we would form up 2 hours early because you had to get the jammers online, and they would have reinforced them if you did it too early. Like it was a whole game, and like basically part of what burned Goons out in the Southern deployment is that, like in BFL and to some degree with Fire and also with PL when they moved down there, was that we would just basically force them to be formed up for 3 or 4 hours doing nothing every time. And sometimes we would still save the iHub, sometimes we would not, or whatever structure it was. But the point is like every op for them was at least 4 hours long, and they would get nothing during that time. And that's kind of their MO. So this time we had to adopt that. We had to form up super early, and they didn't want to for whatever reason, and so it was difficult for them to get into system on time.
Yeah, I think we were pretty transparent with our dudes about like what was going to happen and why we were forming up at what time, and I think they were cool with that. That's a big part of it.
I mean, this is one of those things as well for B3. They're relying on Imperium to waste 3 hours of people's time before a fight to kill a frat to keep Spire in frat space so that XIX can have more rental space. There's a lot of goodwill you need from them there. And when you're showing up like 200 people from your like 10,000 man coalition, it's a bit iffy.
So my question is for everyone here: do you guys think PAPs or like forced activity to your alliance is a form of rent?
Dude, Goons used to brag about how they absorbed their renters to become members that they could get activity off, and now it's taboo to call it. It's all just mental gymnastics that people for some reason need to PvP in a PvP game. It's all nonsense, and it's kind of cringe.
That's a fair assessment.
Well, and they used to have renters as well, and it's not like they got rid of them for ideological reasons.
They still do.
Like
I have it
well,
under good
Goons
advice.
used to have
in the past,
direct
it's
renters.
fully
Like
rented.
they had Pub Lord or whatever that alliance was called, which had the most bizarre system.
Greater
like
co-prosperity sphere.
Yeah, you would just pay to like be part of it, and then like you could but it was like silly though, because like like you didn't get your own system, so you might as well just join the main alliance and then like not pay rent. And so I don't think it was terribly successful.
You know what that was named after, Securitas?
Well,
Imperial Japan occupying the entire southeast.
Yes, I remember that. And but like they didn't abandon it for ideologic reasons. They just had a very poor implementation, and it was not very successful. And then they didn't have enough space, I think, to rent out anyway. But I mean, in a way, I mean, the money still comes into Goons, like their members rat, and it kind of trickles up from there. I don't see that as terribly different from
I mean,
I think a lot of Horde's renters are actually internal people who just want some of their own space. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
so
right,
like
Johnny.
if
But
you're a member in Horde and you just want to have your own system for whatever reason, you can just acquire one. It's yours to do whatever you want with. I think is how it works.
Like, I don't know what the difference between having a mandatory minimum tax rate for each corp, which Goons have, and renting is. Like, at the end of the day,
There's not really much of a difference.
Like, it's just like Mittens culture war nonsense to give people a motive for a war against XIX, which is going to be a slogfest.
But
Well, in the case of actual renters, they don't have to show up to defend the space. Really, is the big thing.
Yeah, the big thing. So the big thing of like, and we discussed this last week when it came to the renting. It is a sandbox, so it's like play the game however the fuck you want. The whole like call them ban renting by CCP, which has started in the last few days. It's like you can't limit the sandbox. That's a really fucking dumb thing to call for, is to make it illegal in the sandbox, because then it wouldn't be a sandbox anymore.
There are some very old Goon Corps that allow members to pay to not have to get PAPs, and other members in the Corp who are very active, who get multiple PAPs, quote unquote, share their PAPs with them and get a share of this. So, like, I'm not going to name the Corp because, like, there's some friends there, but it's a pretty widely spread thing. So everyone's so keen to jump on a moral high horse because they feel like they need a reason again to PvP in a PvP game. Like, eventually, like, I would imagine that most people are going to get sick of having to defend Fire and defend Volta. Volta's like rental holdings, or I guess not really rental. Is Blob technically rented, or is it like their own?
It's private systems.
Oh, okay.
You
And it's
pay
being phased
pay a monthly tithe for a private student. It's very different.
Well, Virtus, it's interesting that you touched on the fact that like Goons always need some sort of like moral high ground or narrative whenever they do a deployment, and I think this was just sort of the best they could come up with this time, which is not like universal. Like most people in this game just fight because they want to fight, or they want to take some space, or like they don't like people or something like that. Like most people do not need some sort of narrative. When BFL
I think it
come
would
up
have been way
here,
more interesting, actually, Sec, if they just said, we don't like Frau, we don't like Pantheon, we're
Yeah.
going to attack them, it's going to be fun, let's go to war.
and they don't need an
Everyone would have
excuse. We
complained.
invaded them fucking a few years ago. Like,
No one in Goons is going to be like, oh, you know what, that doesn't sound fun. Like, the same people are going to show up regardless. So, like, it just seems so insincere, to be honest, and it's just unnecessary, and it makes you look, well,
Well, they think
Kind of
everyone
feel like
else
there was
thinks
a
that
quote
way.
kicking around about not needing an excuse to have a war.
Well,
you should never need an excuse to have a war in a
you
spaceship
don't,
in a video
and-
game.
Oh, and but they think everyone thinks like that, right? Like when we came up here and shot Brave and Volta, they couldn't conceive, and they still can't to some degree, that we were just here to get fights and we wanted some good content. And like everyone was convinced that we were here to like evict Brave or like shit on them or like
The weirdest part too is like we would always joke about how Frat was paying us, and they genuinely weren't. I know we memed about that a lot, but they actually weren't paying us the first time. We were just here to get fights.
Yeah,
And
and
people would like herf and blurf about how we'd largely go after B3, but it's because like we're not a Chinese time zone group. Like BFL is not APAC players. It's much better for us to go after the Euro time zone timers.
A great man, Kendar, once said the only currency that really matters in EVE are the fights. Like, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. Probably most people would agree with that. Like, at the end of the day, most people don't play the game to do anything other than blow other people up.
I'd say it's probably half and half. There's a lot of people that just like the industrial stuff and don't ever want to fight. There's a lot of them.
well, from that
I don't
point
agree
of view,
with them,
Vertiso,
but I'm saying there's a lot of them.
yeah, I would agree. There are some people who don't, but most of the people in nullsec and these alliances do. And I would say, Vertiso, if that is the case, this deployment was actually a very bad idea for them, because basically in all the time zones that they're actually likely to get fights, like now they just have such a large blob that they're like, this has happened 2 times in the last 2 days. Like I formed to get some fights twice in the last 2 days in US time zone. And basically like they just blobbed themselves out of getting them, because I'm willing to fight like pretty outnumbered, but like they had 500 I think for the X7 fort timer, and like this is pretty low stakes, right? It's like on an NPC for like there's no jammer, like it really doesn't have a ton of strategic value anymore. So they were pinging about getting fights, and then they just kept pinging, and they were kind of uncomfortable with the fact that there was only 3-to-1 numbers. So they just kept, then goons started pinging, and then they basically just blue balled themselves out of a fight, and then they blamed us for it. But I mean, if you're up here to get fights, it doesn't make a lot of sense to come up here and blue most of the people who are in your same time zone, so I don't know.
I mean, they don't want they want to win fights.
I really do enjoy that there's someone in chat telling me that Fire and GTC essentially aren't RMTers. And it's like, I ask you, didn't
That's not what that
head one of
person
the
said.
lead FCs?
That person said, "Don't you think that you don't think these rental empires are RMTing?"
Apparently, the only rental empires left are Fraternity and Horde.
I'm pretty sure every big alliance has people that break the rules.
SFC
right?
RMT'd all the fucking skill U forts. That's
Everyone
a
knows
well-known
that.
fucking fact.
XIX
Capku has confirmed that one.
Fire
is
pay for his apartment in Talon.
Didn't the Brave exec Kigali like embezzle like 100,000 plex or something, and it just mysteriously vanished?
Yeah,
Hey,
GTC
hold on,
are
guys.
very guilty of RMT. I mean, I know Frat's guilty of RMT, like the embodying, like Horde's guilty of it. Everyone's guilty of it. Goons are guilty of it, and it's guilty of it. So you can't be like, oh, it's only these people that are RMT. It's like, no, everyone does it. It's
I
just
suspect every big alliance in the game probably has some people who aren't. Obviously, you try and police it where you can, but I think it's very different having like some random line member doing it at a tiny scale and having like your exec doing it at a massive scale to the detriment of your alliance.
Well, there was an alliance director in Goons that got caught doing it, and he sold out the people that he was either selling it to or buying it from, and he remains to this day an alliance director. So, I mean,
Which one is that?
Boris Agnon.
Oh.
But the people that are like, these rental empires are RMT, and it's like, if you think that's the case, go ask Secured, or not Secured, go ask SFC where all the skill U money went. Because it didn't go to Volta. It went missing.
Where all the DRF money is, and all the
all the
money
DRF
is.
money.
So listen.
Well, a lot of the rent money is now in Goon's wallet because they took the payment from XIX, but they hate renters.
500 bills, not a lot.
Wasn't it just? I thought it was just Init that got paid for that.
No,
I don't
no,
think...
no. Goons are the ones that got paid, and
Init
then
got
Init had
nothing.
to watch them.
No,
I think they
Init got
probably got
paid
something.
too.
No, Init got paid.
Yeah.
They got 500 bill or whatever.
No, the 500 bill
that a
was to
lot, though?
Goons.
No, 500 bill went to Init as well.
Oh, they got paid both.
Specifically not to drop on
I
them
don't
while
think they
were
both
moving.
got paid.
I thought it was just.
I'm pretty sure it was only Goons. And
I thought it
Init got out of
was.
watch.
I thought it was just the initiative, wasn't it?
Yeah, my
I'm
understanding
like
it was just
90.
the initiative, and that was because Goons had to like.
No, I'm
Initiative
pretty
got
sure
paid.
Asher even said we didn't get anything out of this. Like we
Yeah.
just did it for this and this reason. But Goons actually.
Well, Goons were allowing initiative to take the payment because
Yes.
Darkshines was losing his fucking mind because Asher literally just cucked his entire deployment.
Yes. No, and it definitely got paid. I do not know if there was some hidden payment to Goons or something, but I know for a fact it got paid. I don't think Goons did, or at least there was nothing official about that.
That was a
but
super weird power dynamic, by the way, like going on between those two during that.
Like
Oh,
even
I
if
know.
Goons got paid, 1 trill's not a lot of money.
Init like did the first thing they've done on their own, truly on their own for a long time, and then like within like 2 weeks, like Asher basically found a way to completely fuck it over because he didn't agree with what they were doing.
Yeah, and then it probably would have gotten a ton of super cat frags too if they hadn't like allowed them to retreat like that.
If they dropped the first move up, they would have made probably a trill in loot alone, and actually had a good time from the deployment rather than just shooting citadels.
It would have been like the biggest super and Titan gank ever potentially, and they passed off for 500 bill.
By the way, there's somebody in chat who seems to think that before Imperium and Fire came up that we were blobbing B3, which I can assure you is not. Maybe someone can show them the Q5 BR because that was like the most
900 to
egregiously.
300.
Yeah,
Or just
900 to
we had
300.
we
Go
had
back a few
100.
weeks to when we had Shattered on the show, literally saying that you guys were heavily outnumbered before even Init showed up.
Apparently.
So just
Like
to
we have our own
clarify,
advantages. I don't want to minimize that we have our own advantages of being, good OPSEC and good doctrines and stuff, but we definitely were not blobbing them. Like that's just factually wrong.
our average form in like US time zone is like 40 human beings, and it might be like 50 or 60 during European time zone. Like we're very mid scale, I would say, as far as the amount of humans we like congregate.
And I'm sure Luke will freely admit that Frat EUTZ, like they're definitely working on building it, but it's not like huge by far.
Oh no, I mean it's smaller than Brave, right? Like I've got the numbers, and it's about like 2/3 the size of Brave, but not as active in the same way.
If GTC had to deal with Chinese FRT in their time zones, GTC wouldn't exist.
Like I don't think people realize like how large B3
it's
is.
apparently
like it's really large now. Like it's big.
Zach, apparently he's upset that poor main blobs small gangers in drones.
Oh,
Therefore,
well, I mean that's probably
that's
true.
the reason.
But...
That is just the reason he just gave as to why we're blobbing B3.
Well,
if you run to someone's space and they're standing fleet blobs, it's kind of like what you're accepting by going there.
Isn't there an entire like video series from Squishy of Welcome to Delve, and it's just like he warps to a gate and he's dying to like 20 Titans smart bombing on the gate?
Yeah, but like that was really people's opposition to that was kind of they didn't realize they were shooting themselves in the foot because people complained that they were dying to bosuns in gates when they were warping to the same gates every time instead of using a perch. And Goons are very generous. They put a citadel on every single gate, so you can just use their own citadels as perches. So people cried about that so much, just because it happened in Delve, that instead of getting bosoned on a gate, which is actually quite easy to avoid, you're now getting 50 Vargas bridged on top of you. So the people that cried have only got themselves to blame.
And by the way, like, I just want to say that when we talk about what the numbers are, Johnny and I and Firefox and BFL and everything, like we're not like crying about the numbers. Like they are what they are, and when we deploy, we accept that they are what they are. But it's like if you're coming up here for content and then you don't get it because you blob the shit out of your content, I mean that's kind of on them, right? So like we've made up, we get plenty of fights. Like in the last like week, like X47 is just like the most active system in the game. Like we
I
get
don't
plenty
think
of
it would
kills.
be unfair to say BFL has gotten some of the best nullsec content in the past like 13 months, maybe the best in the game.
And we know that like we just can't, like when they blob us, it's not we're like, oh, these fucking blobbers, like they're so bad they shouldn't blob. I mean, it is what it is. They're kind of shooting themselves in the foot though, because then they don't get anything and we just snack on their stragglers and stuff like that. So
Go gank some riding character.
We'll make it either way. It's them that are sort of cucking themselves out of content.
And you warned them of this.
I was gonna say the same thing.
I did warn them. Yes.
The same thing essentially happened to Big Ab with our War vs RC. Like RC, like on a max form, fucking outforms the shit out of us at the time, and then they were still bat phoning like NC in it for like every timer, and it's Horde for every timer. And it's like you already outform us. So we were already fighting outnumbered. We just were willing to drop like forced cap fights where they kind of were like, that's a lot of us to lose.
Rocket X is he has officer grade knee pads.
Didn't
He's
Rocket
very
X
good.
also try to bat phone snuff for some of those timers, Nada?
Well, Vertiso, he shares that in common with Starfleet Commander, I think.
Oh
But,
yeah,
like-
Starfleet Commander is very good at pretending he doesn't like renters when it suits him. He's very good at that. Do you know, a fun fact.
I was talking about the knee pads actually, but you know.
Well, yeah,
No,
yeah,
but-
but, like,
but-
he's sucking up to goons is what I mean. Like he's
But
pretending
who doesn't like
he's
renters?
All right, but no, what I was trying to my
No,
point
let
though being
Vertiso say what he was
shut
going
up.
to say. No, you
Shut
shut
up,
up.
Redline.
Vertiso was saying something.
You
Say
shut
it.
up, Redline.
You
Let
shut up.
Firefox speak, Redline. Jesus.
You son of a bitch! I'm defending your honor. I'll never defend your honor again.
Okay, so can you stop and see where the red line?
So the point I was trying to make though is like when I was in Big Al, we were still outnumbered like versus RC if they actually wanted to form big for something important. And there were fights where we had to stand down, and it's like, yeah, it's gonna happen, but like it's the same scenario that happened in a much smaller scale compared to what it is now. That happened in the Pravi area. That's happening in Pure Blind currently. It's like you can fight outnumbered to an extent, but after a certain point, you just kind of have to be like, yeah, that's way too many. Like the day they formed like 400 battleships to fight 60 nightmares, we were like, okay, we're just standing down, boys. And it's the same dynamic that's currently happening in Pure Blind, and it's just like it's part of the game. You get used to it. It's kind of shitty not to be able to take the fight, but it's like if they want to blob out their content and not get content, so be it. Like it's just gonna tire the members out, and I think a lot of the people showing up to help RC kind of stopped after that happened a few times in a row. And I assume the same thing's gonna happen with like the North.
It's already happening.
The
You
other
blue ball
thing too,
yourself to the
right,
point where people
is
are like, I don't care enough.
if you want to develop new fleet commanders, you have to put them in spots where they can like take tough fights and lose ships sometimes to get the experience. If you always have the numbers advantage, you're going to get a lot less fights, and your FC team's going to stagnate as a result.
Well,
And I
they've
would
had
point
that-
out. Oh, go ahead, Vertiso.
No, I was just going to say they're suffering the after effects of that from the past couple of years, really. Where, like, let's be honest, it's not exactly the most friendliest environment for up and coming FCs. There's quite a lot of in like this, what's it called, skirmish commander channels and shit. They're pretty harsh on. Well, they used to be pretty harsh on people. And if you didn't agree with Ash's ideas, then you didn't really matter.
Well, and Vertiso, they haven't had much to cut their teeth on in terms of goons, like lately. Like they haven't done a lot of like smaller SIG deployments, which is where usually those FCs learn to do things outside of this sort of safety net. But B3, it's actually kind of a shame for B3 because when they were fighting us regularly, they were actually getting quite good. And I'm sure Johnny remembers this. Like they were starting to have like specialized like Boucher teams. Like I mean, they were like doing stuff that was. And they were evolving with
doctrines
us
to counteract ours specifically as well. Like they were improving like pretty linear scale, I think, during our first deployment to Pure Blind in
and their
October.
FCs were getting better. Like it was actually, I
Our
think,
bench depth was improving as well. We had more people forming.
everyone was hand wringing about us like killing B3, which I never saw even remotely as a possible. Like they're really strong. Like there was just never a chance of like we never even killed a fort. Like despite all the nice fights
we
we
killed
had.
one fort. We lost
we?
80 carriers in EOS's fort. We killed one fort in
Yeah,
FM.
okay, not one in FN. That's true. Yeah, that was. Well,
So
I mean, but even in the end, they
I
actually won that fight. So
I do have a hot take
What I'm
for
saying
you,
is
though.
now they've sort of cut themselves out of that. They were actually doing very well. They were winning fights against us, or at least winning the ISK war, and they weren't losing anything really of significant value. Like I think it was actually a great thing for B3 that we were there, and then now Imperium has showed up and it's just stifled like
And the other thing
everything.
too, right, is if you're on defense and someone deploys offensively against you, you get to defend. You have all the advantages. You get jammers, you get ansiblexes, you get beacons. You have so many options as far as where you can dock, as far as safe structures go.
So real quick, just to jump in here. So you're talking about the content for B3. Obviously, B3 disagreed. They didn't really want the content from you, I don't think. And
I think Shattered was honestly
it
kind of
feels
happy
like
about the content when he was on
it
last week.
feels like they kind of think that you should have just bought your own blues instead.
I mean, we've done nothing but reset blues the past like year and a half. Like we test left drones, reset them, reset all of legacy. We full on invaded fire. Like I don't know what more we could do to quote unquote burn bridges or make enemies in this game than we have done already.
Well, and then when we did do those things, Johnny, people complained about it incessantly. Like
yeah,
when we reset fire, which like Fire on their max form, remember, formed 1,000 people, right? Those
And
people
we
will
reset
never
Frat
help
as well
us
after the
again.
war as well. Like we were neutral to Frat up until last week, right? Or until 3 days ago.
And everyone's always talking about, oh, so many blues and blue donut and blah blah blah. Well, when we actually went and got rid of our blues, then people just, I mean, you can't make people happy, right? People just bitch nonstop about that.
No, the Fire one was great though, because there's just like people right now are like, oh, reset your blues, and it's like you invade a blue, you reset, and Fire's like, you're backstabbing your allies. It's like, what? You're reset. You can't use that. You have backstabbed us. Like that doesn't work as a reason.
So I kind of want to answer the questions in the Twitch chat from like when will when will Horde reset Frat, Slice, NC? Well, I mean, Slice and NC are part of PanFam, so that's a whole different story. And we were neutral to PH until what,
3
like
days ago?
4 days ago?
We
And
literally
had been for about
Andreas
a year,
incident.
right?
We were
Well,
blue, then unblue, and then blue
So,
again.
so from looking from B3 and Goon's point of view, what is the worst thing they could do to make our blue list as large as possible? Like maybe it would be bluing up with like 2 blocks together and trying to like fight, you know, Frat on their own, like that, you know. Probably, I would imagine that if they had just sort of left that alone over time, like probably, you know, Frat and, you know, this is pure conjecture on my part, I'd imagine if we're neutral, Luke, over time, Frat and Horde relations cool, and you know we probably start.
Eventually,
that's just
someone does a dread
coincidence.
bomb mob and someone's Titan dies. So much bad blood,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But then if
Yeah,
it looks like that there's this super block forming that's like threatening, like, well, what if they get through Frat? Are we next, right? So it kind of forces us to turtle up. It was like I think it was a monumentally bad idea to do that, and it's not even working, unfortunately for them. You know, they're kind of stymied. They'll probably get
And
some
some
of these
freebie keeps, yeah.
They'll get some keeps that were, I just call them hubris stars. Hopefully that doesn't offend too many Frat people. Like they
let's
were.
be honest,
they
too.
are hubris stars. They
Yeah,
just
they're
fell off
gonna
the back of
lose.
freighters.
They're gonna get a few keep stars, and then after that they're gonna have to fight in Chinese time zone and jammers. So it's, I mean, it just wasn't a very smart idea. They're not gonna get a lot of fights out of it. They'll get a couple of keeps, which, as they reminded us during the Delve War, are totally insignificant. So you know,
And
whatever.
fights like the X47 fight will galvanize relations too between Frat and Horde. Like when you have a big fight and you know have a good result like that, and you get a lot of frags, helps build rapport between groups.
Yeah, because I'm sure this is not a secret. I'm usually pretty like a pretty straight shooter about this kind of stuff. There was a lot of bad blood between Horde and Frat at one point, you know, and
Like
part of it
last
just because,
week.
yeah, people are wailing each other. There's like AWA, like that just happens if you're next to each other and you're neutral, right? People shoot each other, and like, you know, it happened with Fire too. Mist was going over and shooting their antsies all the time, even when
RF
we were
the
friendly.
Jay-Z
Like
Keepstar.
people get pissed at each other if you're next to each other in neutral, even if nominally you're strategic allies. Like over time, the blood starts to sour. You know, it's bad
Both
blood.
groups are looking for
But
content,
then
right?
if you
It's
go
like,
and invade one of them and
Oh,
force the other one to blue them up,
Zach,
you know.
I added it up. So our blue list of actual alliances right now is essentially Slice, NC, Frat, PL, Pipsy, the Renter Alliance, and is what maybe like 5 real alliances in Winterco
yeah,
in
so just the
total.
Winterco member alliance.
So
Yeah, it's
about like
4 or 5.
11 to 12 actual alliances. I added up from the Fire standings list. There are 52 alliances on that list that are blue.
Why does it
Like on
matter
the stuff,
then?
look, on the stuff like Bad Blood, right? Like people forget that B2 like a year ago were blue the FRT when FRT were coming to help save their oracles, or Brave were using their keep stars and move their supers so they could avoid the Goggle Men.
Yeah, we
And
weren't
they
blue
were
to Blob Revolter, but we were
yeah.
definitely
And
blue to Brave for a while.
Brave were bat phoning FRT and Horde to come fight Tissue and Geminate. Like relations change over years, or like can change a lot over a year.
If anyone's curious, the Google Doc I put in the Twitch chat is the official Fire standings list, and you can count up how many people they are blue to if you want yourself.
I'm
Yeah,
curious.
but
I
I
mean,
mean,
has the
the
Imperium
point,
reset
Luke,
anyone?
is if they wanted to
No,
divide
they haven't.
Horde and PanFam and
Yes, they
Frat,
have.
the worst thing they could do is attack Frat, right? Like that's, you know, especially
Just
in a,
leave us alone, right? We would
yeah,
have
just
pissed
leave
each
us
other off
alone.
more
Yeah,
and more over time.
yeah, exactly. And you know, especially not forming like this super block that can form, you know, 3,500 people or whatever. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, especially because B3 we're not under any real threat. I know BJK said he wanted to like evict Volta, and I think Norris has said the same, but just a realistic assessment of the situation would indicate that that was probably impossible. That's just my opinion. I don't think it was really possible.
Real quick, when I said 52, I meant to say 50. I forgot I accidentally added the 2 GTC renter alliances into the list. So it's 50, not counting support groups for like JFs and shit and renters.
You guys forgot to mention that Goons did reset somebody. They reset Sib Squad.
They reset their allies and then try to like strong arm keep stars out of them.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a thing in Esoteria too, wasn't there? When they basically bullied to keep out of these guys.
Yeah, they.
Oh, that was wrong, wasn't it?
Well, Wrong wanted to leave Cockroach Co. and be more like just like their own coalition of Sigma, and Goons were like, "Okay, give us your keep star for free," and they said no, so they shot it.
That is not why they shot it. Please don't misrepresent.
No, they shot it,
that
and then
situation.
they shot it because they wouldn't give
Because
it
they
to
were
them with
trying
zero
to
risk.
sell it. They were
weren't-
trying to sell it to hostile
To
goons.
entities.
They were trying to sell it to Goons,
They
and
were trying to sell it to Horde, dude. What do you
No,
mean?
no, they weren't.
So
Redline.
just to
Why would
clarify,
Horde
Redline.
ever buy
No,
fucking keep
yeah,
star
so
in Esoteria?
like, why would there be any value for Horde buying an SO keep? And to my knowledge, no one approached us about buying the keep. I believe there was like a public offer, but public means anyone can purchase it.
And the public offer went up after Goons shot it.
It's not
It
usually a
doesn't
time
make
you want to
any
buy a
sense at
keep
all.
star.
No,
So
it would
it
literally
was-
be the dumbest. Like we would just, even if Horde had bought that keep star, it just would have instantly died, and we would have gotten like it. We never would have bought that keep star ever. Like it's just a monumentally stupid idea.
Well, I didn't say you were gonna buy it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty like no one would even offer it to us, dude, because they know that we never would buy it. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense.
Why would we want to buy a keep star 5 regions away from our nearest keep star?
I mean, it'd be dead within a week, right? Like
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
deploy to defend it, so it'd be just gone.
Almost immediately.
Yeah, and then we get to have a keepstar loss on our board, and it's like people are smoking about then killing, a keepstar that, apparently we paid
But
for.
yeah,
Kind of thing.
Redline. The timeline that Ron gave, which I am inclined to believe, was they reset Cockroach Coalition on the suspicion they would be because they blew the Sigma directly, and they were going to do their own like mini coalition of holding the SO peaceful area of Sigma. Goons apparently didn't like that. Tried to extort the Keepstar. They wanted escort. Goons wanted it for free. They didn't get it for free, so they shot it, and then they publicly tried to sell it to anyone who would buy it. And I don't think Wrong really has a reason to lie about that timeline. It tracks for the timeline just tracks for things that have happened before in similar stances with Goons. So
I mean, I did hear otherwise, but maybe I heard it from Goons. So, it's always nice to present two sides of the story, though.
yeah,
Because
Goons said
the
they were.
Goons side of the story is that they were trying to sell it to hostile entities, regardless
I
of
think-
whether or not those hostile entities were
mean,
going
just
to
a
buy
red
it or
line.
not.
If you want,
The
if you want
attempt
my
to
bias take,
sell-
Redline,
Huh?
It's my bias take is they wanted the 50 bill in loot to pay off their war bonds. That was the justification for it.
That sounds accurate.
They were pretty late on the old war bonds. I mean, they doubled down on it with a good old bit of what's it called, multi-level marketing.
Multi-level marketing, MLM.
It's a Ponzi scheme, right, to some effect.
Sell us back the high interest for you. Here's some new low interest.
Well, okay, so when you kill a keep, you get a 30 bill core, and you usually get like 10 to 20 bill in salvage. So it's like a 50 bill windfall. It's like, even for a giant alliance, it's all a ton of risk to put towards your debts.
No one says no to 50 bill. Yeah, we've all done some pretty degenerate stuff for less. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Like I said, I just don't have a reason to like call Wrong liars in this case. And like I know the Goon side is they were trying to sell it to Horde, and Wrong came out and were like, we never messaged Horde, and then Horde's like, yeah, they never messaged us.
We asked Gobbins about it. He said he never got any DMs about it, and Gobbins is a very straight shooter usually.
Well, perhaps it wasn't Goblins directly. All I'm saying is that that's what people were saying about it.
Who
And
else
if
are you
it's
going to
wrong,
message more
it's
to
wrong.
sell a
Tell the
Keepstar
Horde,
than
not message.
Gobbins?
Yeah.
Get message Securitas and I.
It was Brisk Rubal wearing a disguise. It was a false flag
He was trying to
operation.
sell it to not Fountain Frank, Eddie Esoteria. There we go.
Okay, put it this way. Can I say with 100% confident that no, 1 day old Horde character convoed Wrong, asking them to sell the Keepstar? I have no idea, maybe maybe Vertiso's onto something with the
No,
false
that
flag.
wasn't. Oh, right, I thought you were just gonna blame me. Shut
No,
the
no,
fuck
I mean, who knows? But like from the Horde leadership perspective, none of us are aware of anything like
Yeah,
that.
I think
and
Wrong even
it just,
came.
like I said, it just doesn't make sense on its face that we would ever be interested in that Keepstar.
Yeah,
Like,
second, Wrong even came out, like their Ted Diplos came out and said, "Yeah, we didn't try to sell it to Horde. We tried to
Yeah,
sell it
well-
publicly to anyone who wanted it after it got reinforced."
if you're an Imperium and you actually believe that, I would just really reevaluate how much Kool-Aid, because like that, there's a lot of propaganda that's sort of subjective, but this is just it would make no fucking sense at all. Like who would buy that? It's just insane.
And that's like I said, I'm not saying anyone was gonna buy it, but the story was that there was an offer. If there wasn't, that's fine. It wouldn't be the first time goons have lied to people, but it also wouldn't be the first time somebody else has lied about goons.
Redline, the story is goons say one thing, everyone else in the game is agreed upon a different story.
By the way, the people in chat complaining about there's too many Horde, you are quite welcome to come on here if you have a
Also,
different point of view. That's perfectly fine.
there
We don't
are
bite.
there are 11 people in this channel. Under half of them are in Horde.
Well, yeah, you know what I mean, though. I'm just saying, like, it's like
All in Horde, dude. You guys don't have
Yeah,
horse.
you're welcome to
Half
come.
this channel is blacklisted from Horde.
We don't yell. We don't like. We
That's
don't
true.
bite. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm thinking half this channel is just blacklisted from Horde.
Name
I don't know
them.
how we're all.
Whoa,
I think
hold
you,
up. Hostess
Vertiso
Rat
Lane.
Enjoyer says TTT is Pappy propaganda. Bullshit, my dude. I will take that no longer. We
I'll have you know,
did
sir,
a
I would
beautiful
hoax
show.
anyone's time.
We did a beautiful show a while back that was exposing all of the bullshit from Pappy. And since that moment forward, we have not been anybody's propaganda but mine. So suck my dick. Sorry, I had to do that. Anyway, carrying on. So goons are liars. More news at 11.
Nothing.
No, I'm not calling them liars. We're giving you our honest take on this. Like, this isn't hypocrite or anything. This is my objective take on the situation.
I don't even know how we got to the SO Keepstar, but
It is a good
it was
meme,
about
though.
someone because they were quote unquote backstabbing allies.
Yeah, we were talking about
With
backstabbing
Sip Squad, I
allies.
think.
Can we get to this frigate brawl and Losec Redline? I'm curious about that. I wasn't there for
Yeah,
that one.
so I was just about to say we've been on this topic for quite some time. How we spent a while talking about the battle and the things that are coming from it. But there was a huge fight this weekend in Uleda. Let me see if I've got that pulled up here. Look at that. A massive brawl in Uleda, like 400 people, like almost 1700 ships. Not a what happened here?
So every year, a guy called Rick Stravix puts on a frigate free-for-all event, and every year Snuffed Out shows up to win it. And this year we took home the championship again. As you can see, it was 36 brave Snuff Warriors versus the massive hordes of 300 plus frigate pilots, and we won pretty handily, only
looks like-
feeding a single pod.
There's also a Zernitra here.
Yeah, they whelp a bunch of caps and stuff.
That's those were frigate class signatures.
Yeah.
Confirmed it.
So
got some jackdaws, alt frigates. Does that count?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wait, scroll up a little bit, Redline.
Yeah,
There was
no,
a
there were some
AKC
cheaters.
member and a Jackdaw.
Yeah, there are some cheaters on the other team, but you know.
yeah, so what happens
Imagine.
is all are
He's French, so it makes
Imagine the corporation they're in is post this.
Yeah.
Are you gonna share this battle report?
I can do. It's on the stream. I'll share it in the chat. I usually don't show it on the stream.
So, Vertizu, could you say the competition got snuffed out?
You could. If you had limited creative thinking.
Also,
Because I'm
I
sure there are better things.
would actually like to
guys
point out,
do?
Redline, I would actually like to point out, if you scroll through the names
Mhm.
on the stuff side, go to the letter T.
I'm scared about the name that's going to be there.
As Panther pilot.
Oh,
This one?
Yeah, look who's back.
Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Tau 80's back. He got on 4 kill mills. What a coward. Absolute coward.
Yeah, couldn't stay for long, but I think Audie got on about 600 or something ridiculous like that.
Jeez.
She wasn't even in a smart bomber. It was a lot of fun. So what they would do is they would bring out caps, and then all the frigates would jump up or group up the camps or on the capitals. So what we would do is we would either jump on smart bombing blocks, or we would warp a bunch of nesters over to them, and just like collect hundreds of kill meals.
I think
That's
my
so
favorite.
mean.
I think my favorite part of this is at the time if you went to the like system Z kill page, it showed Snuff at the top of the list, and then
Yeah.
Rick Javis photoshopped Snuff out of the list and added a different alliance in with a different amount of kills.
Yeah, they were also like posting this other BR that had us below them. I was like, the BR had them getting less kill or more kills than their entire alliance has got in like the last 7 days. So it's like a really weird cope. And we got a lot of salt from like Ricks and stuff for like showing up in legions. But what he doesn't talk about is the fact that his corp go around in like assault frigate groups, just like farming people in T1 frigates. And I know it's not like a 1-to-1 comparison, right? But like it's still a bit bad form when you're hosting the event and you're not even playing by the rules. And
Yeah,
then
so when this is
we
what,
actually
a
were
band
playing by the
apart,
rules.
or
Because
Pardon?
all those
Band
Black
apart,
Ops
yeah.
battleships
Yeah.
have a frigate in the frigate escape bay.
that's toxic, and you know it. All right, so help me through here on this composition. How? Oh, okay, a band apart.
Just
Is
move
this-
out a bit. No, that's gonna show a corpse.
You need
Get
to
it
expand,
involved. No,
you need to expand the time frame. You have put it down to what was it? Or it was 1600 it started. Yeah, change the start time down by 3 hours.
All right. I'll change it.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And then go back to involved.
Oh, you don't know how long this took me to do the first time.
And just move ABA, like just move stuff to their own side and move Amanda Part to their own team as well.
All right, so we got Rick's Javix here.
Oh, look, they're in a
Thanatos,
fucking cruiser fleet and a frigate FFA.
Condor. All right, got a Macarial.
Seems to me if you ping for a frigate FFA, you should probably show up in the frigates you ping for.
But look, they're in a Caracal fleet.
Where's the
think
Caracal?
The Rapid Light Caracal is a pretty good anti-frigate platform, isn't it?
Without looking, there's a non-zero chance it's going to be a heavy missile or something else other than a rapid light.
Now, in fairness, most of the people that were here, well, I guess I should look at all of the ships then if I'm going to, but I do see a lot of
Given the sizes BR, it's going to be pretty hard. But like,
no, I've done harder.
we did what we did because we're who we are, right? Like everyone expects that. But when you put it on the event, it's a bit bad form. And then it's also bad form when you steal donations as well until you're publicly shamed about
Now
it.
that's I don't know about that, Nada. I don't know if that's fair. You're talking about the hell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hey, here
explain
is the
your
hell.
side, because I read the blog post that he made about it, and what he said made sense. And also, like, it's Eve, so like, even if he did get a hell for the event and didn't feed it to you, I mean, cope, cry about it. Like, who cares?
Oh no, like, it's more that he was blogging about it back in November, getting it on like Twitter and stuff. And it's like, oh, I'm going to feed this for the free for all. I'm like, okay, cool. He doesn't want to feed it to us. That's fine. He just comes out and says that. But the fact is, there was not a word of it mentioned before the free for all, and there wasn't a word mentioned after until we started making fun of him for it in the EVE Online Discord, which is a bit. Would he
Which
have
has in
mentioned?
itself has been a hot point of entertainment this week, we should point
Good
out.
lord.
Yeah,
The Eve Discord.
Let's not get into CSN discussions.
Please don't. No, but here's the thing though, is like I'm looking through here, I do see a lot of Tech 1 frigates. I see stuff that's not Tech 1 frigates. I don't think that we can say that this was an event ruiner. You know, not like 30 legions, not a red. Oh, this is the blob.
Look, there's only 62 of us. There was hundreds of them.
Come on, dude. I don't know. But either way, I don't think that hell is.
I would like to point out Rix has 4 kills in this BR and a monitor.
Well, it's because he didn't know what a monitor did.
To be
And
fair,
it
it's a great
didn't
event, a lot
die.
of fun, and I'm glad it's hosted every year. And if Rix keeps throwing temper tantrums and refuses to host it next year, Snuff will host it.
Is that the play all along? You want to do the frigate free for all instead?
No, but when he was not going to host it, we were going to host it instead. Because
Why don't you
we
just
can
do your own?
Yeah, we might, because we can actually like no one's gonna come fuck around and blops in
Oh, they
Tam.
might.
Who
They may.
says?
They might.
I'll
Stuff
come.
can
I'll
actually
blop
stuff
in. I'll
actually
drop my panther on your frigate free for all. I'll ruin your day.
stuff actually has the ability to police it and enforce the rules.
Maybe Sedition and Shadow Cartel come and give you the business. Who knows?
Shadow Cartel fucking. I don't know. They can't gate to a timer.
We wouldn't even be able to police it even if we wanted to. But Avdog would just appear out of nowhere and kill everyone.
Renavog
even
would
if-
be like, Ivarger is here.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, oh, you're in my system. That's cool. My private system, Tama.
Oh, the second ship a band apart lost was a cruiser.
Was it?
Yeah, scroll up.
Oh yeah, Thorax. Yikes.
So
That's what I was
there are
looking
rule
at. 'Cause
breakers from the start.
The troll here in the chat said to change the timeline view and see when the cruiser or when the frigates became cruisers, and it looks like it was pretty early. I was trying to see when the next one came in because there was another one. Got a Courser, Caracal. I don't know. Not a big deal either way. But Rix, if you're watching, thanks for hosting the Frigate Free for All. I hope everybody had fun. It seemed like it was a decent time for everyone involved, as long as you're in snuffed out. Or you were there when they weren't. But I do think you guys should host your own Frigate Free for All. I'll come.
We hosted an
I'll
event
get
like that a few
some.
years ago when someone died and stuff, and then it was like a lot of fun with Titans and stuff on grid, and then PL showed up in like Jackdaws FC'd by Headliner in a monitor. It's
Yeah.
quite funny.
You know, we could probably do, Cesspool X Snuffed Out Frigate Free for All. Stream it, make a big thing of it.
We used to do
just trying to
battleship
help.
kumites where you could bring any T1 battleship you wanted, and it was a free for all. Everyone warps at whatever range they want to at a can, and that was a lot of fun.
Sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. Well, is there anything else you want to say about the Frigate Free for All, or?
I wish Rix would come and discuss his feelings on it, to be honest, because he's a very vocal man when he's, when he has 3 hours to write a blog post.
Well, I don't think
He's
it
on a
takes.
different talk show, remember?
No, he's
Well,
off
he
that one.
was. He
Oh.
was. Yeah, he's off that one. 31 minutes ago. So there's been 31 minutes. The Rix Javik's gonna come here and talk to us for Frigate Free for All, but he didn't, and that's okay. That's fine. I don't expect him to come and talk about that. Wow. Valamir says he's smart enough not to engage with our ilk. I don't even know what that means.
The MMORPG.com article and like 7 blog posts would say otherwise.
Can't even spell Ilk personally, so lost.
Nada, apparently you guys are salt mining cunt, by the way.
That is actually pretty much the perfect description of our entire alliance. You're correct. We are salt mining cunts. Like
Someone actually, someone said Snuff were the essentially 4chan cringe of social sites.
Yeah, I already screenshotted that and put it in our alliance Discord because it's fucking amazing, and we will enjoy laughing at that.
I like the random person that replied and said, "Nah, that would be tissue."
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would take that as an insult, so fair enough.
Airwalk is recruiting. You can find our recruitment post in the EVE Online Discord. If you meet our requirements, you can apply.
The requirements.
Unless you're in Trainwreck or Shadow Cartel, then you cannot apply.
Do you guys still do low sec mining, Vertisa?
Well, I don't think anyone likes flying barges.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was told like a long time ago that I just couldn't believe. I was like, I heard like, oh, Snuff does a lot of low sec mining, and I like didn't know if that was true or if it was someone fucking with me.
When Crockite came out, well, Crockite came to low sec. I think the most we ever had was 50 raw calls just going from Anon to Anon for weeks on end, and no one ever came to shoot us.
People are like, oh, I don't want to shoot a Snuff Rourke. That sounds like a bad
Well, I
idea.
mean,
Like nowadays, the Rourkes aren't even like good for that anymore, right? It's like barges.
That's why we have literally hundreds of raw calls. If anyone wants to buy any raw
That's kind of a shame because I feel like low sec would be super interesting if like it was actually like made tons of money to mine with Rourke walls. Like
it makes it
or if there was like a passive income on moons, like I don't know, a rig for an ethanol that gives you 50%. Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah,
I'll end up rambling.
Mining in low sec's like really good. The problem is just like going to Black Rise and mining in a barge is a fucking pain in the ass.
Well, do you know what else is in low sec though?
The Esho moon?
Everyone apparently, because direct enlistment went live today. I didn't even see that one coming.
I've seen a ping from like every alliance reinforcing like don't shoot blues that are like in a hostile militia or something.
Seriously?
I mean,
because
like,
it overrides the alliance standings on your overview.
Good,
well,
it should.
No, the reason it makes sense though, Red Line, is that like you don't realize like you have to deal with it on the back end, like all the whining and bitching, and it's just not worth it. Like, I don't think it's because like people particularly care that like some random frigate will get killed in low sec, but it's just like
Someone will get butthurt about it, and there'll be a lot of drama,
and then
and
you
there'll
have to
be
like deal with it.
mediation and a lot of BS no one likes
I mean,
doing.
like, goons aren't allowed to go on like Spectre Fleet or Bomber Spar or anything like that.
They are.
Oh,
as long as
really?
they're not attacking
No, they're
the
not.
blues.
Yeah, they have a,
Yeah.
They got banned ages ago. It got
Yeah,
banned
they're
because
banned.
because that's how Extra Squishy got kicked from Init, because he was on a Bombers Bar fleet and he tracking disrupted a Rorqual that was about to die, so he got kicked for that.
It's kind of silly.
Yeah, so obviously goons aren't going to
funny,
be
I thought.
participating in the faction warfare, right?
I don't imagine so. Like, they have a long way to travel, even with Anselplexes, to get to any of the war zones.
To the person asking what side is Horde joining, any side the pilot wants to join. Can't really.
That's the nice about it.
And our policy right now is we have bigger fish to fry while we're helping the pandas in the north. We'll worry about that afterwards.
Are the rest
sure-
of you coming along, or is it just going to be BFL and PFL?
By the way,
for-
does
or
anyone
PL
know
for a
if you
while?
join like Amar or sorry, Minmatar faction warfare, do you like lose access to Jita, or is it like
Yes.
not?
So
Yes.
Amar and Minmatar have changed. I think they're no longer linked with the other two
Oh yeah,
factions.
that's right.
If you like join Galente, yeah, you're fucked. Like we couldn't join Galente because we couldn't dock in Rakabas.
Oh yeah, because now
they
it like
broke the
restricts you.
alliances
Now it
between
restricts you from
militias.
like docking or some shit, right? But I guess
Yeah.
you probably most people like do faction warfare on
So
alts anyway. I
what it
imagine.
was, Suck, is in frontline systems, regardless of who owns the structure, as long as you're on ACLs, you can do everything normally. In non-frontline systems, if you are a member of the hostile militia to whoever owns the system, kind of like the Sav of Losec, essentially, you can, same rule as like if you're a criminal in high sec, you can only tether, dock, and all that in a pod. You can undock in anything, but you can't redock.
Wait, like even if you own your own structure
Yes.
there?
Yeah.
If you are in the wrong militia, you cannot use it unless it is a frontline system.
If I join
there
Gamma
was
right now,
something
I
in the
couldn't
notes
use my
about that.
Keepstar. I couldn't tell her on it.
Oh, that's fucking
Or
crazy.
Forza, not Keepstar.
Wait,
Oh,
Nada, I thought
Res-
Stuffed Out would never use a Keepstar though. I thought Stuffed
No,
Out were
yeah, we
Fordas
never
are
have.
enjoyers.
If we ever have any Keepstar ever comes near us on those second dies, you can ask in it.
I think the line about it is like halfway down the patch notes spread line.
That's what I was looking
I saw you
for.
scroll past it.
How many times? Twice?
Yeah, you scroll past it going down and back up.
So obviously this is all a part of the new. It's a new lore event. The Shadow
Easy
War
way,
that's
actually,
happening.
just Control F tether, and you'll find it.
I'll find it. So in the Shadow War though, this is what's going to be help to develop the shipcasters that we're so looking forward to.
So what the fuck is a shipcaster? I saw a CCP post about it, but I have no idea what that is. What is that?
It's
Low Sec ANSI.
Low Sec ANSI.
Low Sec and
Oh.
Siglex, but one way, I think.
Yeah, one way. I think they have to come from high sec into the war zone, and
Yeah.
you have to anchor a beacon for them. They shouldn't exist, and it's another bad addition to the game. But
It's not a bad addition. It's fine. Just be better, man. It's okay. It's okay.
So is it a
Redline,
way
why don't you
for
actually log
people-
in?
Is it like a way for people to like teleport from one part of
Yes.
high sec to like the low sec somewhere else, basically?
yeah, you can go from like I don't know, like say perimeter to you get some like Sujirento instantly type thing.
I
But
guess that
I
doesn't
will
sound that bad.
in fairness,
Is
we
it
don't
like a gate where
exactly know.
people like does it teleport you just randomly in system?
We
Does it
don't
put you
know.
We
on
don't
a
know yet.
We don't
There's
know.
an anchor beacon.
It's literally just a like it's a thing that's gonna be coming soon, but we don't know much more about it than it's to get from one place to another. I believe it's gonna
Well-
be from one of 4 systems, the 4
Kentucky
home
and that
systems for the factions, to probably one of the frontline systems in the respective war zone.
Well, I was gonna say, Redline, we do know is that there's only gonna be 4 of them. Each faction
Right.
is essentially supposed to get 1 in their what's the like, the quote, unquote, "staging." But the thing is it's still basically an Ansiblex from that staging system to anywhere in the war zone with all you have to do is anchor a beacon, which is kinda dog shit for low-sec.
Well, is that what
It
it
is
is?
essentially you light a Sino and you can take a bridge from high sec to low sec.
Where did you see that it was a beacon that you anchor?
Nada has literally said multiple
On
times.
Fuzzworks, there's a beacon item and beacon rack item for the Shadowcasters. So I imagine you anchor it on like a station, then you jump there, and then you dock up or whatever.
It is essentially you light a Sino and bridge from high sec to low sec.
Yeah.
Well, that does make it a little bit more problematic. But LB is saying that it's not a beacon controlled by players. So the question
is.
would be though, if it's not a beacon controlled by players, where does it come from and why can it become a wreck?
You build it
A beacon putting down
like
is
a
definitely
mobile
gonna be players.
Sinosuro beacon. And you can
Right,
drop
no,
it
I
in a
understand
system.
that. But what I'm saying is if it's not something like that, then why would it turn
It
into
is
a
something
wreck?
like that.
The one in the HQ
Fucking
isn't. Like
LB.
the bridge itself isn't, but the Sino is player made and player placed. Not killable.
It is a mobile Sino beacon, Redline. You are overthinking it.
They're not adding some grand new mechanic,
It's not a
really.
flex structure. It is a deployable mobile Sino beacon. Except it works for the shipcasters.
Okay, so LB is talking differently. LB says that the faction places it when they control a system like a low-sec iHub. Where is that information from? And while we wait for that, we'll see. And I saw on Hobo Leaks that there was the beacon there, but it didn't say anything about it being anchorable.
If it's not anchorable, that'd actually be worse because then it would be a permanent thing, so that would be even worse.
Well, no, it would be if they lose this. It's what LB is saying in the chat. Like if they, the faction, lose the system, the beacon gets destroyed, like an iHub. So it wouldn't be something.
I just want to know where
that-
this whole like the beacon is built into the system.
Well, I
comes
just want
from,
to know
'cause
where
I've
the
not seen
beacon is
anything.
being anchorable comes from. Because like there can be an item in the
Because it's a
game.
destroyable, deployable.
Yes, but you can destroy other deployables that are not placed by players. Like when
You guys are arguing
kill,
semantics though, when the
when you
whole
kill
point of
an
it is that this is
NPC
a negative
ship, it turns
change.
into a wreck. It's not a negative change. I don't think it's a negative change at all. If it's a thing where you can basically bridge from high sec to low sec, like, and you can control exactly where it goes, you can deploy it or whatever, yeah, maybe that's a little bit worse. But I don't think that anybody
frontline
would do something like that. That seems very silly.
You say that, but we've seen CCP do some fucking idiotic shit within the last year. And on top of that, we've already seen what Ansiblexes have done to nullsec. We've already seen that they are a problematic thing in nullsec and needs some sort of change. Adding an Ansiblex-like mechanic to lowsec is pretty fucking stupid, just on the concept alone, just on that level.
You immediately get rid of a lot of choke systems like Tama, where there's just a lot of natural content because a lot of people just go through there naturally.
You just it's the same issue that Ansiblexes have on regions where it's like you can avoid entire like pipes, and it's just like it just kills roaming content.
I don't think that's true. Because I think roaming content can go wherever it wants to.
You make the pipe that exists between like Alamake, Var to Azara, that entire pipe is always a pretty good place to just camp and force a fight. If you can just jump over that, that pipe is now worthless essentially.
All right, so I believe I've found I found the beacon that you're speaking of here. So are you talking about this, the Caldari Shipcaster beacon wreck, etc.? Okay, why isn't that showing up on screen? There it is. A little delayed. Okay, so this is. Does it say it's anchorable anywhere? I don't. It's got a volume of 27,500. Would that be M3?
Yes, that would be M3. That fits in. That's small enough that it fits in a DST.
Okay. And so you're thinking that this is anchorable, and then it can obviously be destroyed if it as it's a wreck. But LB does bring up a good point. Where's the blueprint for it? And it is
Buy it
possible
off
the
the LP
blueprint
store.
wouldn't be added in, right?
I hope it's not something they have you buy straight up from the LP store. That would be.
I mean, if they put it so it's like every frontline system, then it's far worse, right? Because there's a lot of fucking frontline systems.
Well, and I don't think it would go to every frontline system is the thing. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna scroll through this while I try to find if there's anything else I can get. But I don't think it's gonna be to take you to any frontline system. But if it was, it would be random. And that would be fine. That's like a low sec filament at that point. It just you have to go from one location and you can only go to X amount of systems.
When I'm looking at an Hobo Leaks, the Shipcaster beacon construction structure has about the same EHP as like a TFI, so you can just kill it. Apparently, it has the same EHP as a TFI, roughly.
I don't.
Like,
I don't
know
feel
how,
like you'd be able to kill it. Is it a collidable?
It has to be. What is it? I'm looking. I'm trying to see.
Hello?
Hi.
I'm in the Discord, but I can't hear anybody.
Oh, we can hear you. You can't hear me say that, but we can hear you.
Do I have to be on Twitch? I don't know. I can't hear you guys for some reason.
Is that an elaborate meme, dude? He only talks when we stop talking?
It could be. It could be. But anyways, I don't think this is something that is going to be anchorable. I think it's something that will just exist if certain conditions are met, and I think that's perfectly fine. I also think that
Wouldn't
if you
that
can
literally be
go,
worse than the anchorable?
why? Why would that be worse?
Because
If
then
you
it is quite literally it is an Antiplex. Because then it is quite literally just an Antiplex in low sec. So then you would have people staging out of what is it, Intaki for the Galente, and literally just jumping out of Intaki straight to a frontline system. There would be no chain of escalation. There would be no. It would be like all of a sudden people form up. There's immediately in a frontline system from Intaki with 50 people, if they want to form like for a battlefield or something like.
Yeah, that's the point.
That ruins a lot of the essence of the game, where it's like you have interesting systems because of where they're geographically located, and you have reinforcement times. So now it's just get your blob, go for the answer packs, reinforce from your staging, and back again.
Okay. So are you telling me that if I were to go from like one of those high sec systems, one of those home systems, to any of the frontline systems, that I am guaranteed to interact with other players on my journey?
Depending on your time of day, yes, you
Am
are
I
pretty.
So depending on my time of day. So not giving you a
Yes,
time of
obviously.
day. If I
Obviously,
make
if you
that
do it,
trip, am I
if you
guaranteed to run into other players?
If you go from G
well,
to
Redline,
Narco
obviously,
Light
if you
9,
do it in fucking deep AUTZ, no, you probably won't run into anyone because that's the quietest time zone.
All right.
Obviously, if you do it in EU time zone in the fucking Galmill Calmill war zone, yeah, you're almost guaranteed to run into people camping in Tama, probably snuffed out, along with
how
all of the other
much-
groups that hang out there.
How much more likely am I to run into players if I can just go from where I am to where the players are? Much more likely, right?
I don't get why you're trying to defend this.
Redline,
I'm trying to
you're not
defend
even
it
making a
because
point.
it's what LB is saying is that
Redline,
what
shut
is
the fuck up for a
happening is that
second and let Tally
CCP is trying to get people into the fight faster without as
Okay,
much travel
yes,
time.
you're getting people into the fight faster, and at the same time, you are removing any of the interaction in the actual space itself. You are making these entire swaths of space, just like the same issue we've run into in nullsec, fucking worthless. We have entire regions of nullsec that are functionally worthless and nobody wants to live in because why would you? We have ansiblexes. You can live in the better space. Like, ansiblexes are already a huge systematic issue in the game. And if these exist in a similar state in lowsec, you're going to just repeat the same fucking problems.
Like the reason
And
why
low sec, the current issue in faction warfare isn't that, oh, people can't find fights. That is not the current issue, that people can't find fights. Faction warfare is the most active PvP space in the game. It is the place you go to find fights. Easily, any hour of the day, you just gate to a
So
front line
take the
and you're fine.
shipcaster.
Okay, so
Just take the
now
fucking shipcaster. Go get a fight.
Redline, you are missing the point.
I'm not missing the point.
Yes,
It
you
is
are.
it is a one-way trip from a high sec system to a low sec system. Camp the systems.
Redline.
You can't camp a high sec system.
Camp the low sec, dummy.
You can't. The gate camp in low sec that you used to be able to camp to fuck with people is now useless because of the shipcaster.
Camp the shipcaster. The output.
Redline.
With what?
Why would you live in low sec over high sec now with shipcasters?
I'm sorry?
Why would a faction warfare group live in low sec rather than high sec now? This is just remove the massive incentive where people will live in frontline systems like they do at the moment, because that's where the content is. Because now people will just be able to live in high sec and just safely teleport to where they want, rather than actually living in low sec.
That's a very, very good question. Is there anything worth living in low sec for?
Yes, content.
What is it?
But
So content, but not if there's a shipcaster.
Moons, I
right?
guess. I don't know. Are the moons better
Okay.
there than the high sec ones?
Are the
I mean,
moons
they're
in
better,
low
but they're
sec
the same as
better
null
than?
sec.
Yeah. Okay. So they're the
someone
same
in
as null
chat,
sec.
Isogen.
Level 5s, I guess. I don't know.
Cool. So
Okay,
still reasons to go there, and
Calmo.
proximity to those things. Also, I would say that holding the space, being able to continue to hold the space, because I assume there's going to be some sort of ADM system, some like maybe are there plexes that need to be kept up or some sort of thing
Wait,
like
so
that?
I have a question then. There are certain materials that are only found in low sec in terms of that you need to build like every ship in the game, right? I think that's the case, but I don't know a lot about industry.
Yeah.
So where does that all? So if it's not snuff mining it any, like where does that all get mined? I'm just curious because like, I've never heard like there. It must be mined on a massive scale, right? Because like every ship in the game needs it, and so I'd imagine.
So
where does that happen?
we probably have some people that mine. Aside from that Galmil area, no one's really allowed to mine for some reason. Anytime anyone unlocks stuff, it just dies for some reason. The other Warzone, probably imagine similar. So a lot of it's down in like Genesis and like is it Solitude and regions like that. Or not Solitude, Yeah, no, Solitude's low sec. Yeah, it's going to be like this more southern low sec regions like Iridia and stuff. I know in it mine and there a bit, and then sometimes you do see like Imperium mining fleets in like places like I think Asakai.
Okay. So how is a
Golden-
shipcaster going to stop these?
Because it stops all the people that currently live in low sec right now for faction warfare living there, because it's more advantageous to live in high sec.
Why would it be more advantageous to live in high sec and
Redline.
then take whatever
Guaranteed
ship you
safety.
want to go? Shut the fuck up and let me speak. Because if you're talking about going and mining in low sec, you're going to have your mining shit in low sec already. You're not going to move your mining shit through the shipcaster.
You just contradicted yourself and also
How?
just ignored what Nada said.
I'm not
The
ignoring
people
what
who
Nada
shut-
said.
listen,
He's saying that
Nada's-
people
no,
live there.
The people who live there for faction warfare, not the people who live there to go crab in a back-end system and mine. The people who live there for faction warfare, the people who are there to PvP, it is more advantageous for them to live in the high sec with the shipcaster, because it's easier to move stuff to and get stuff there, and you just take the shipcaster in the low sec. So you cut out the entire pipe as far as logistics is concerned.
Yeah.
But if it's a one-way trip, like you have to go back anyway, right? I guess.
The goal is you probably roam until you die, or you just eventually get back. But if you die, then you just death clone back and you skip the way back. But the point still stands. It's more advantageous to live in high sec as a PvP focused faction warfare group within the system with the shipcaster than it is to live in low sec in the frontline area.
Also,
it's just how it works.
So knowing full
Redline,
well that
the
we don't
groups-
know how the shipcasters are going to work, you're gonna say that with utmost certainty that this is guaranteed to ruin
If they
those
work
pipes
anything like an Anzablex works, yes.
in terms of getting people from point A to point B with a click of a button instead of a click
I-
of 13.
Do we know if they're going to be like the actual structures themselves? Are they going to be in high sec or low sec?
High sec.
The
We already know they're in
actual
high sec.
structure, the set, like the actual part you jump through, is in high sec, and you cannot kill it.
We know they're
Okay,
gonna look
I'm
like
not
this.
wondering about killing.
All we know.
I'm not thinking about killing it. I'm just curious that who's this for then?
This is for people in high sec to get to low sec and get into fights. It's the people that live in Jita that undock and they go from point to point to point to point to point, and they do that. Look, how many times have you gone from Jita to low sec looking for a fight?
The only people who can use the one, or only people that can talk in Jita and then use one of these are Kiltari. All the other factions are.
And
You have to
Menmatari.
go. Okay, so Redline, listen.
What?
You're there for PvP.
Yes.
Is it easier to move a bulk of ships from high sec to high sec or high sec to low sec?
High sec to high sec.
So why would you not just live where the shipcaster is, where logistics is 100 times easier?
You
and
would.
just use it to avoid all the systems.
You would.
You see the point?
What's the problem?
They're living people.
Those people live in high sec already.
No, they don't. They currently
They
live in low sec.
How do you know?
Okay,
I think
Redline,
Redline's making the argument that there's a population of people that live in high sec that don't engage in a lot of low sec content right now that would if there was like a instant bridge into the fight, so to speak. I think that's what his argument.
But you also have the low sec groups that it's like.
Well, I'm not saying it's the
You know
right
what I mean,
opinion.
though, where
I just
it's
that's my
easier for the low sec
understanding.
group to move to the high sec. And
Yeah,
just
I didn't
avoid
say I
pain and
agreed with it. I'm
logistics.
just saying that's my interpretation of what Redline is saying.
Look,
And the
if
issue
there
we're
are
trying to say is
groups-
that if this group, if let's say that CCP is trying to cater to this particular part of the EVE Online player base, at what cost? What is going to be the damage to the rest of the ecosystem in trying to cater to this one particular part of the player base? And it's going to be pretty high.
I predict otherwise.
I guess I can see Redline's point depending on how many of these. If there's like one of them per low sec, like, and you don't get to really choose where you go, and it's kind of like maybe
There's 4
like
total, 1 for each faction.
yeah. So I feel like I mean, if there were like a shit ton of them, I could kind of see the point. But I feel like most people are still not going to like unless it's like exactly where you want to go. It's not. You know what I mean? Like
and
I don't know how
highly
much of
doubt
an
it's gonna
impact.
be. Like, and that's the thing is we don't know. Like, we don't know what exactly the shipcasters are even going to be yet. All we know is that the intention is to get players from point A to point B more quickly.
Avoiding.
Now listen.
The entire route. Yes.
The issue
exactly.
The issue is the getting players from point A to point B instantaneously, skipping over other systems. That is in and of itself the core of the issue that people have with it,
That's
Redline.
also the same issue people have with Ansiblexes. Is
But it's not an
you
issue.
Yes,
an
it
issue.
is. It is very much an issue. It is quite possibly the single biggest issue in the fucking game right now.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ansiblexes.
You look at all
And
the
that's
high,
fine. You don't
look
have
at all
to
the high
be.
activity systems. Tama.
Does anyone
Order.
like think that Ansiplexes are in a good position at the moment? And I'm
Nobody,
not saying this as a cockpit
Risk
question.
Rubal,
with
there's
three
Rubal,
neurons
people
to rub together thinks Ansiplexes are in a good spot right now, and I
Listen.
sincerely hope the devs think that as well.
There's that's a different conversation entirely. But look, this is what I'm telling you from my own experience with doing it. Whenever I have ever tried to go from a market system, a market hub to lowsec to get fights, I am literally aimlessly traveling through space. So far to the point where one time I tackled a Gnosis on a gate and got a bunch of blops and bombers dropped on me out of
Redline,
boredom from gating. It was a
That's
while ago.
That seems like an issue with you and
Does
not
it?
knowing where to
So
go.
usually what you do if you have a low sec character is you get like 20 of the ship you want to fly, and you bring it to a hub system, you through Death Clone there, and you just reship there for like a week, and you get new ones.
Well, I think I'll bring mine to Intaki, and I think I'll just use the shipcaster to jump into lowsec, personally. But I don't think that the people who live in lowsec I don't think the people who live in low sec already are just gonna pack up and move to one of these high sec systems. It
There's a
doesn't.
strong incentive for groups to do so now.
I mean, sure. I guess, if you don't want to anchor your own structures or whatever.
Well, here's the thing as well, Redline. If your system gets flipped that you live in, you're
Uh-huh.
locked out of everything. Like, you completely avoid that risk of basically old school station mechanics where the last person to get the final blow owns the station and you're
Mhm.
immediately locked out of it.
So
That's the same mechanic faction warfare has with stations as the old soft system before Citadels.
yeah.
You just completely avoid that risk by moving to the high sec because that system cannot physically ever be flipped.
Okay.
A big part of
The
why people in the current faction warfare fight as hard as they do for certain systems is because of that risk. There are certain systems where they will fight tooth and nail to keep them because, oh shit, that's our staging. We will fight to the bitter fucking end and you will not push past the system. And that's a big part of the current content.
But if one
Mm-hmm.
side gets too powerful and it's like, oh shit, we're gonna lose our staging, it's like, well, just move everything to the high sec and you're safe. Which is when a
Okay.
lot of groups there are gonna be you see the issue that there is now where it's like you can just all the risk of living towards the front lines vanishes. So you just kind of live in peace in high sec, easy logistics. There's no risk of your system flipping.
And like
And
the
you
game
avoid any content that would happen along the way of gaining through pipe systems. It's like cool. I'm all for people getting in the fight quicker, but like
Apparently
it's just a
not.
bad way to do it, in my opinion.
Hey guys,
Apparently,
can I
for
cut in here
someone,
real quick? I just have a quick question about something.
sure. Is it about the shipcasters?
You know what? No, I'm sorry, it's not.
That's
Go for
okay.
it.
No, we'll save that for later then.
No, shut up, Redline. Let him ask the question.
So no, it's fine because I want to talk about the shipcasters more because this is ridiculous.
No, just Redline. Just let him ask.
Be nice, Redline. Be nice.
I am
We
being
can always come
When
nice.
back.
Snuff is telling you to be nice,
All right,
you know,
fair
you
enough.
fucked up.
Go ahead,
It's all
Flea.
right,
Ask the
man.
question.
I mean,
ask
ask
it.
your question.
Ask it. Ask
you know,
it.
a
Go
topic
for it.
on-
Go for it.
You can wait until the end of the discussion. It's not a big deal.
No, go for it.
I want to hear your question.
Okay, so I've been playing the game for about 2 years now, and hold on a minute, I gotta turn off Twitch. Basically, all I wanted to ask is if the whole geostrategic situation right now, with like the whole map of the game basically being locked up by like, I don't know, like 3 major coalitions. I'm just curious, is that because the nature of a game like this, you pretty much have like a state of equilibrium because there's only so big alliances can get, and so we saw what happened with the last big war with goons. Since you have to unite the whole map in order to go to war against one group. Is it just because of the way a game like this works, or maybe it's because there's like an imbalance in something like the infrastructure, like the antiplexes people are talking about? Like maybe, I guess I want to know if there was like one thing you guys could adjust about the game to make it easier for large alliances to go to war with each other, and maybe we could have like some more changes in the borders of things. Yeah, that's it.
That was the best question ever asked by anyone in the history of questions.
Be nice. So
It
his
was
question
actually a good
was,
question, though.
yeah, his question was, like, to summarize, is the map and the organizations slash coalitions, are they the way they are just because of the nature of the game, or is it something else?
I think it's just the nature of human beings more so than anything.
The
Because the game is a
definitely
sandbox, and it's
the
just
game's definitely made it more progressively easier for groups to get bigger and bigger with little consequences.
Sure.
Like, you think if Antipex is right, goons couldn't have everyone around them blue if they couldn't get to like pure blind and like 10 jumps, and they had to go like 30 jumps instead. So it's a lot easier to get the content now than it was back like 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think the Ensiplex makes big groups even more tenable than it did in the past.
it's not having fatigue is actually the big thing with it, honestly.
Hmm.
because fatigue would just limit. It's like, oh yeah, you can
You
take the
get
jump bridge this far, but it's like you have to wait.
Yeah, you get rid of fatigue. You're back to 20. You're back to like 2018 when jump bridges were fine. No one
When if
complained about them either way.
if you want to gate camp them, you're basically gate camping a region gate, whichever one you're doing, and there's a good chance that they're going to reapproach the gate and go right back through it before you can even tackle them. And then they can come back
You used to
through.
have jump bridges. What's the difference? And the big one is fatigue. Fatigue is a very big difference. Because it like the current system from 1 DQ to gate to like say DO6, which is current Goon stage, and you probably go through like 5 or 6 Ansiblexes on the way. Which you can do back to back. So it's like a 10 jump trip that you can just in a shuttle do it, be done really quick. With jump bridges the way they used to be, that would max out your fatigue. So instead of it taking like 10 minutes, it would take you, if you cut like a couple hours, the gate only using jump bridges. So you'd have it, so it forced you to take more gates, which made the trip longer. So fatigue is a big one in that regard. So fatigue actually does matter quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective is that the way that I agree that a big part of the game is the way it is because of power projection. And the reason for that is that the pool of people that you might be fighting, like how big you feel like your block needs to be, is always relative to like who you think you're going to be fighting, right? So if it's really easy to concentrate forces with ansiblexes and stuff like that, then the pool of people you're going to be fighting is much larger, and so you need to be much larger. And I think the smaller nullsec is, through nerfing of ansiblexes, basically, the smaller coalitions can and will be, right? Because the only advantage is really survival. Other than that, you deny yourself fights, the game's less interesting. The only advantage is survival. And if you make it so that force is more local rather than like, game wide, if it's not trivial for people to project force, then, suddenly things are very different.
I do not think shipcasters share the same issues with ansiblexes.
You cut out there.
I said I do not think shipcasters share the same issues as ansiblexes.
No, they're not as bad, but they're just.
They create other issues potentially.
I feel like them being one way is kind of like it's the clutch move for it, because it's just, I don't know, it's maddening to me.
Everyone loves battle royales.
Right, but not even that. More or less that people love fighting in EVE Online. That's the whole point of the game, and getting into the fight faster is better. Now I know you guys are saying that there's content in between, but it's not as prevalent as you think it is. Gate camping has not been super popular.
I live in
Here's the
that.
thing though. Even if it's not as prevalent as you think it is, why remove that part of the content from the game?
It's not
It's the same
necessarily
thing with
removing it.
like hyper supering essentially happened, where changes CCP made like just affected the ability to hyper super properly and actually do it, because it took things that taken out of space, with mobile obs and just how they work, plus fatigue. There's a point it limits how far you can go hyper supering. There was no reason to remove that playstyle from the game as well. Why remove another playstyle, even if it's not as prevalent? As both are pretty niche. There's no reason to remove a playstyle from
There's a gate camp that goes on Kanaka like pretty much every night, and like last few weeks, there's been like cap escalations on it, and not even from us, just from other people. Like it's just hubs where there's people going to be all the time because people have to go through there.
It just probably means that some people are going to be coming in from a different gate into the same system at the end of the day. And like, I don't think people would be so scared of it if CCP had a good track record of implementing something and then iterating on it to balance it at a relatively decent tempo, right? People are just scared that they're going to add this. It's going to be completely stupid, and then we'll have to talk about it for 2 years and then plead with them, and then someone will run for CSM on it, and then it will get fixed.
That tracks with CCP though. So
Well, if these are big anchorable structures, at least we don't have to worry about the Cal Mill zone having them.
Well, they're going to be in high set.
Oh, the beacons.
Well, the
If they're
beacons
like
in low sec.
Yeah, we can just kill them.
Oh, okay, cool.
What are Cal Mill gonna do?
Cry.
I have a question for everyone that we've been discussing recently.
It
Gate
will be
guns
the
in
final
low
question
sec.
of the night.
Okay, gate guns in low sec. Now, what purpose do they serve?
Annoyance.
Okay,
They're what,
I would
180
argue.
DPS.
Yeah. So the only thing that really prevent is destroyers and frigates from just fighting on the gate, which I think a lot of more would happen. Like they just seem to destroy the chance for small gang stuff to happen in low sec. And I
Yeah.
could see that you could say that I would even like look. Few people argue against their own self interest for for the general well being. But you could just make it so they only target capitals and ramp their damage up by like 300%. Like if you want them to be annoying, annoy capitals. Don't annoy destroyers and frigates in low sec. It's so dumb. Like it just seems like it's so outdated. And they could even do it so that whatever like the true sec is, if they want to make some of them actually more dangerous and make the law mean something, sure they could have gate guns, but like the high sec border stuff, it
I
just
think
doesn't
they're
really make sense.
like they were 180 DPS, so they're pretty fucking irrelevant, honestly.
Yeah, but they slap frigates. Like you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
destroy
actually.
scepters.
Because they just
Yeah,
have they have perfect tracking.
yeah, they have
Like-
perfect tracking, so you can't stay on grid in a scepter and a destroyer and play aggressively.
But even cruisers, they stop you taking a fight because if you're like a mirror match out stabbers, that 100 damage DPS is the difference.
Yep. And if you're gate camping, you just need 1T1 logi per person, or not even that. If I ever gate camp, I just show up and put an X in fleet and ask for a rep, and someone puts it on me. Like,
Yeah, they
it's
don't
not
prevent
a
gate camping. They prevent like scepters tackling people and gates.
yeah.
I know I did see
they're
they have
mostly there
perfect
for lore.
tracking. If they actually made the gate guns have an actual tracking value, that might solve some of the issues without having to be too big of changes.
Sure, I know.
Make it
Like,
so that they don't track frigates as well, but they can still, tickle you, so it might add maybe a bit better.
They're mostly for lore.
and they do a
I
lot of
think it's
harm for that price.
they're pretty worthless. Like, oh, you jumped your freighter in the low sec, you're still gonna get tackled by a scepter because all it has to do is point you, warp to a ping, warp back down, and it can just tackle you infinitely because guns won't shoot at the gun. So like big stuff where it's like the lore reason of why it's there, it doesn't actually help it protect the lore reason. It just kind of, like you said, it in mirror matchups or in the frigger like destroyer down like fights, you just can't have them on the gate.
You could have them on stations. That would make more sense, right? Like it's a station. There are people doing shit there. It's security, but
There are
gates
station
is
guns.
just-
No, it's not what it means though, Tally. It's like you could remove them from stations, leave them on gates.
No, other way around.
Oh, remove them from gates, leave them on stations.
Yeah, stations actually. If they want to leave them, I mean, ideally take them out of completely because, like I said, they just stop people in small ships from PvPing. That's literally all it does.
True.
It doesn't save any like heroic high sec courier man in his Itron making that dash to that, taking that one little jump to get through.
Which is the lore reason of why they're there.
Yeah, like that might happen once a week, and it probably stops about 100 fights from happening a week. Not big fights, not huge battle reports or anything, but like fights, people playing the game.
The solo small gang stuff.
Yeah, it's not doing anything against the like triple plated A-type Marshal.
See, I like the gate guns, but I'm also a frigate pilot, so I'd rather jump into a gate or a system, see another guy on the gate, and then watch them warp off to a novice, and then I follow. I find, as somebody who just solo PvP in low sec, I really like that aspect where I'm not worried about jumping in and getting gate camped by some dude or whatever.
But if you're getting gate camp right,
the guns
they have
stop
logic.
it.
By a frigate is what I mean. Like I'd rather go into a plex to fight someone than 1v1 on a gate.
But you can do that even in that situation, right? Like there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah,
In a
unless there's
frigate on a gate with gate guns? What?
No, I'm saying if like you can still whoop off to the Plex if you want to, as in a frigate, nothing's stopping you.
Oh, I gotcha.
like if they're set up with like an insert pointer or whatever, then they have logi anyway. So.
I think it's more it stops like the natural like PvP that would just over time just happen on gates as people are gating in those systems that are contested for the Warzone.
Yeah, like the amount of time I watch like faction warfare people stream here and like vectors and stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm not aggressing him because I'm gonna get gate guns and lose."
Do you think every single player that has played EVE Online, the first time they decided to go to low sec to PvP, probably died to gate guns?
Yeah, like the
Like, think about it. Like, I'm not. Obviously, some people didn't, but like, I feel like a large majority probably did die to gate guns the first time they went to low sec to PvP because it's
look
not
at
really
the Lydia
explained.
event and all the frigates that died to gate guns there.
Mm.
Slice or
The first time I went to low sec to PvP, I died to the Kanaka camp.
Yeah.
I think first time I went to Losec, I died to Snuffed Out, ironically.
And then the Kanaka camp like was like actually like because I'm like maybe 2 days old in the game, and I legitimately was like I did the thing of, and I tell people to do so. I was like, sometimes just ask who killed you, what you could have done better, and you'll get an actual response. Because a lot of people just want people to be more competent because it gives you better fights. And like I just got a legitimate like, this is what you should have done, yada yada yada, advice and all that when it came to like fitting and how to play the game, and that was all from like the gate camp. I miss the Kanaka gate camp.
It's back.
Oh, the old one. Like the Black Aces gate camp.
Oh, there's probably some boomer stuff. But one of the guys who attempts to get now is like the original AWACS.
The original AWACS.
I'm sorry, you're telling me that there's not a lot of gate camps out there now?
No, there is.
No, there is. I'm talking about the OG gate camp in Kanaka.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you want to talk about a toxic gameplay style that is in low sec that kind of ruins it for a lot of people,
and being
I think
snuffed
that,
out.
Well, that is obviously a huge factor, but the fact that you can just take like 3 Gnosises and stop pretty much most things from just Gnosises in general. I don't know. That's probably not a big deal. It's just a personal pet peeve.
No, Gnosis, Praxis, and Synesis are some of the worst ships ever added to the game.
All right, gang.
Gnosis is the really awful
I'm just gonna
Well,
put the mail in guest lounge.
before,
You can laugh at me.
Before we dip into another riveting topic, I have the unfortunate task of letting you know that the stream will be ending soon, as daylight savings time is running its toll on me, and I am very tired. But you can be sure to join us next week at 0100 Eve, I think is the time now. We'll be doing another episode of this show, probably. And for the next minute, Chat, the floor is yours. You say whatever you want to as long as it's not against TOS.
Can chat come on and ask questions and discuss their opinions?
You know what? That is something that I would like to do. I want to do like a call-in thing where people can call in, ask questions, and we answer the questions and then they leave. Instead of people coming in and just staying on and not talking. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm looking through my old last mails.
Well,
It was
and
very
there's
embarrassing.
at least in the beginning part of the show, there were a lot of Imperium members who I think disagreed with, a lot of people. They should come on and say their piece.
Well, Serafina Sazis says they're going to join us, and also that we're snowflakes. I don't think that is true. I don't think that we're snowflakes. I also don't think that you're going to join us. Anyways, this guy is doing 1 million ISK giveaways. I think it would be hilarious if when you guys go over to his stream that you do 2 things. 1, follow him. 2, if you have a free Prime sub, throw it his way. 3, send him money in game. Doesn't matter how much it is, just do it. It'd be hilarious. just to see how much you can get.
This is
Anyways,
actually
I've
just
been
Redline
Redline. This has
streaming on
been
the
Trash
mouse.
Talk Tuesday. See you next week.
See you next Tuesday.
I love that.
Looking through my early kill word is pretty Monka-esque.
I have a few